Megan, are you okay if I act as the moderator before we get to, I think I should have a vote though. Okay. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Reno City Council meeting. Our mayor's running a little late, and I am not the vice mayor. So as a first item, I'm just going to ask for a vote of the body to potentially make me the acting presiding officer until the mayor arrives. So I'm looking for a motion.
I will motion to make you the vice mayor until the mayor arrives.
Okay, thank you. Is there a second? Okay, and I think Miguel is on. Okay, is there a second? Miguel? Or Kathy? What's that?
Councilmember Martinez, can you hear us?
Yes, can you all hear me?
There we
Yes.
go. Now we can.
Okay, sorry about that. Yeah, I'd like to second the motion.
Okay, thank you. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay.
Opposed?
Okay, all right, motion carries 4-1. We'll move on to our introductory items, and we have a Pledge of Allegiance, and I'd like to invite one of our visitors in the audience, Jonathan Kane, to lead us in the pledge. We'll follow your lead. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. All right. Thank you, Jonathan. And then can we get a roll call, please?
Thank you. Good morning. So we're moving on to item A2 roll call. Councilmember Breckus?
I'm here.
Dewar?
Here.
Martinez?
Here.
Ebert?
Here.
Taylor?
Here.
Reese, absent at this time. Sheevy, absent at this time. Madam Chair, you do have a quorum of the Reno City Council.
All right. Thank you so much. And we'll turn to our first item, which is public comment. And could you please read out the first public comment?
I sure can. Sorry, give me just a second.
You don't want to? Okay. We go up there. Okay. And who is that? 1 sec. Okay. Jeff? Eckert? Okay. In a moment. In just 1 moment, at the end of this first public comment.
All right. Our first item today is public comment. Members of the public may hear and observe and provide public comment virtually registering through the following link, which can be found on reno.gov/meetings, https://websister.webister.us/register/capital W, capital N, _H, capital X, lowercase c, 7, capital N, Y, B, capital E, capital T, EE, capital B, capital X, capital W, Q, capital V, capital D, capital K, capital H, M, E, capital A. It should be noted for those in the audience that comments are to be addressed to the mayor and council as a whole. Comments heard under this item will be limited to 3 minutes per person and may pertain to matters both on and off the council's agenda. Council may not take action upon any matter not agendized on today's agenda. When you're called on for public comment, please state your name for the record and begin speaking. The timer will begin when you say your name, and you will be afforded 3 minutes. For those participating in chambers, in accordance with Council Rules 6.3.11, while in this room, please be respectful. Disruptive behavior from audience members like clapping, yelling, whistling, etc., which impede the meeting, may result in a warning issued by the presiding officer. If the behavior continues, Zoom may be removed from the chambers. If you're an attendee in the Zoom meeting and would like to make public comment, please raise your hand at this time. Our first public commenter today is Jeff Edgar, followed by Terry Brooks, followed by Chris Buckley.
All right, Mr. Edgar, would you like to come forward? And welcome. I know you're a representative of the Tour de Trees, which we
Yes.
launched this morning. We had, just for the audience, we had 100 riders launch on a 350-mile bike ride, and they're raising money for trees as they go. Their goal is to raise about $300,000 for grants to communities and universities across the country. We planted a ceremonial tree this morning. It was one of our native trees and one of our state trees. And so, Mr. Edgar, welcome.
Thank you. As speaker on?
Yes?
Okay, great. Well, my name is Jeff Edgar, and I'm one of the trustees of the Tree Fund, and the acronym TREE stands for Tree Research and Education Endowment Fund. And I'm also from a small town, Manitowoc, Wisconsin, and which is about 30 miles south of Green Bay. You've heard of Green Bay.
Yep.
And we're most famous for our cranes, Manitowoc cranes, our ice machines, which are found in most hotels and motels, burger boat luxury yachts, and in 1962, Sputnik 4 crashed on one of our main streets. Let's see, I'm a member of the Tree Board of Trustees, and the Tree Fund is set, our mission is to support scientific discovery and dissemination of new knowledge in the fields of arboriculture and urban forestry. We offer 8 grants and 6 scholarships annually, and also offer educational webinars for certified arborists, which go towards their continuing education units as a requirement to keep up their certification. The Tour de Trees is the single largest fundraising and outreach event for the Tree Fund. This year we have nearly 80 riders from the United States, Canada, and the UK, and who will ride their bicycles from Reno here to Half Moon Bay, California, about 400 miles distance. And the week's events include tree plantings, educational programs for children and adults on the importance of trees, meets and greets with local tree enthusiasts and the public, and more. So why do we advocate for tree planting and care? Trees offer us cooling shade, especially in heat islands of cities. Trees offer us an inexpensive tool to help sequester carbon dioxide. And of course, I could go on. There's lots of benefits to trees. But one of my favorite quotations from a nursery is, whatever the question, trees are the answer. Let's see. Thank you for joining us today, especially Councilperson Naomi Doer and City Forester Matt Basil, for the warm send-off we had this morning and the tree
amazing.
planting. Thank you very much.
Yeah, it was amazing. And let me call up Jonathan too, and you'll fill out a form after. If you could just come up for a minute. And we did something special today, and I wondered if you could tell us about the blessing. We planted a tree, Nevada State tree. And I'm going to ask Megan Ebert, one of our council members, to come up and join you as well. But while she's coming up, if you could just tell us about the blessing and what happened today.
Sure, of course. My name is Jonathan Kane. I am with Tree Fund out of Illinois. And our tree blessing ceremony today, after we planted the tree, is a tradition that we do. We have been doing this Tour de Trees for 32 years. And every time we plant a tree, we do one of these tree blessings to help with the health and overall community spirit of the trees. So we're very glad to have all the city representatives and other folks from the area join us in that, and our little chant that we do. So we're very happy to be out here. It was a great time. The city of Reno was very welcoming to our riders. They all had a great time, and we're looking forward to the week ahead of us as we ride almost 400 miles.
Wow. Okay, and I saw the journey laid out last night at your dinner, and there was a lot of hills, climbing up the whole Sierras, going over in California and their mountains. Ms. Siebert, would you like to read the proclamation? Then we have a little gift for you as well.
Thank you. Whereas a tree has been planted in the city of Reno to officially signify the start of the 2023 Tour de Trees to benefit the Tree Fund bike ride, and whereas the representatives would like to thank the riders for visiting our city and spreading the word about the importance of trees in our city, nation, and planet, and whereas we wish you good luck and good memories on your 400-mile journey from Reno, Nevada to Half Moon Bay, California. Now, therefore, on behalf of Hillary Sheevy, Mayor of the City of Reno, Nevada, do hereby declare September 27th, 2023 as Tour de Trees Day. And for the City of Reno, we encourage all citizens to enjoy exercise while appreciating the importance of trees in our lives and for our planet.
All right, thank you. Congratulations. Thank you so much for picking us as a place to start your journey. And we have a gift for you today as well, Tyler. We have a organization called Relief Reno. It's actually a program, and our city's made special shirts for that. If you could hold it up or take a look at it, it is. It's got the city logo on there, and it's got a symbol of tree. And so this is, again, for Relief Reno. So thanks so much for being here today and joining us, and for launching your ride here, and good luck with the Tree Fund. All right, thank you. All right. All right, with that, Madam Clerk, do we have another public comment?
Terry Brooks, followed by Chris Buckley, followed by Megan O'Farrell.
Thanks for doing that.
Good morning. It's me, Terry Brooks again. And today I'd like to render my thoughts on the LGBTQ when it involves discrimination and gender. Some people, when they were born, were identified as male, but later on in life, they thought of themselves as female. Some people, when they were born, were identified as female, but later on in life, they thought of themselves as male. Some people find themselves attracted to the other gender. Some people find themselves attracted to the same gender. Some people find themselves attracted to either gender. Some people consider themselves as of either gender. Some people find themselves wanting to change their gender. Some people refer to themselves as transgender. Regardless of what one's body identifies them to be, in their minds, a lot of people are whatever they want to be. A lot of people discriminate against such people, causing a lot of division. But when it comes to your own gender traits, that is your own decision. Everybody has the right to be who they want to be, even when discriminators unfairly disagree. A lot of people hide their inner gender to avoid discrimination because they would rather hide it than to endure such discrimination. A lot of people refuse to hide their inner gender, and they do so to protest against discrimination against their gender. A lot of politicians say not to say gay, while a lot of other politicians say it's okay to say gay. It would benefit everyone to just quit discriminating against each other and to just try to get along and care about each other. I would like to thank you all for listening to me today, and even though I am not gay, you still let me say gay today.
Okay. Thank you. Good addition to your growing monolith and book project. All right, Madam Clerk.
Chris Buckley, followed by Megan O'Farrell, followed by Ilya Arbitman.
Good morning, council members. Thank you for your time this morning. I'm Chris Buckley. I'm representing Women in Aviation International, the Sierra Battleborn chapter. I'm the vice president, and that's a global nonprofit that's dedicated to the advancement of women in all aviation and aerospace career fields and interests. So, as some of you may know, our local chapter is a fairly new one, but on Saturday we hosted our second annual Girls in Aviation Day event. That's our signature event. And the City of Reno was one of the sponsors, so thank you for that support, especially Councilwoman Taylor, Councilwoman Dewar for donating to this very special event. We hosted the event at Atlantic with the Reno Tahoe Airport Authority, the Society of Women Engineers, Partners for Community, and Computer Corps of Carson City. So the day is all about showing young women all the opportunities that are available in the aviation and aerospace fields, and our members really encompass what a diverse field it is. course, Councilwoman Dewar was there to see it all. An
It was
amazing day.
amazing.
Thank you
It
for
was
coming.
truly amazing.
We had professional airline pilots. We had Ashley, our local air traffic controller, who's based in the Reno Tower, kind of telling these young women about how she directs traffic in the sky. We had engineers, the UNR Aerospace Club, C-130 from the High Rollers with an all-female crew. And Navy Commander Carrie Wallace, call sign Polar, even stopped by in her F-16 Fighting Falcon. I think that was one of the highlights, was her leaving the airport. She's taxiing away, and she's waving to 50 girls that are on the ramp, waving back at her. And that's really what this event is all about, is seeing that inspiration. So more than 150 young women and their families turned out for this event. Quick note about our board. Our president, Becky, is the first female pilot to graduate from Top Gun. She served her country for more than 2 decades, and she speaks about her experiences all over the world. I'm the vice president. I'm a commercial pilot and certified flight instructor, so I teach people how to fly, kind of give them that initial taste of what it's like to be in the air. We have our membership chair, Rachel, who flew fighters in the Air Force and also served her country for more than 2 decades. She flies for United now. Our treasurer, Caitlin, is in flight school. She just earned her instrument rating and plans to fly corporate jets for a living. And our secretary, Melody, has always wanted to become more involved in the aviation and aerospace industries, and Women in Aviation has really given her the opportunity to do that. So we cannot thank you enough for your support. We hope to make Girls in Aviation Day bigger and better every single year. We look forward to partnering with the city in the future, and of course, you all are invited to our next event. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you so much for being here, and since you have a little time left, I'm just going to say it was a phenomenal experience. It's one of those things, sometimes you go to something, you don't know what to expect, and you're absolutely blown away. The number of, you said 150 young women that attended, the commander, she was in there signing autographs as the first graduate of Top Gun. She herself radiated incredible charisma, as do you, as do Jess, who I met with the women engineers, who's a mechanical engineer. And both she and the commander are working on their PhDs now, it turns out.
In their spare time, you know.
In their spare time of flying and running their companies and so on. So I'm sure Kathleen and I are just very grateful for what you have done. And it was just remarkable. So thank you for hosting, and we're looking forward to next year.
We are looking forward very much next year. Thank you so much, everybody.
Okay, all right. Madam Clerk?
Megan O'Farrell, followed by Ilya Arbitman, followed by Tara Tran.
Good morning. Before we start. Thank you. All right. Thank you so much. I'm ready. Good morning. My name is Megan O'Farrell for the record, and I'm here today with my fellow advocates to continue the public conversation around the Community Assistance Center, or CAC, sometimes referred to as the Record Street Shelter. We're here to make sure that this long fought for and vital community resource does not become yet another empty lot downtown. We know that council, for some reason, is extremely reluctant to agendize a discussion on this matter, and we also suspect that there are likely plans brewing in back rooms to level these buildings and turn them into parking for the stadium. If this were to happen, it would be a catastrophic failure on the part of our local government to preserve, maintain, and make use of existing resources and to serve those most in need here in Reno. Lucky for us, the CAC actually appears on at least 2 items on today's agenda, B15 and C1, so we have a great opportunity to begin this much-needed discussion. I'll be providing some background on the CAC. Afterwards, my fellow advocates will speak more directly to today's agenda. First, I'd like to read some highlights from a 2007 article on the CAC, both to remind the council and to inform anyone in the public who may not know what a monumental, years-long, community-wide interagency effort was put into constructing these buildings. So here is the article from RDJ. After almost 25 years of searching, planning, and building the last 1.5 million...
Megan, can you turn the microphone to follow your face, please?
Yeah. After almost 25 years of searching, planning, and building, the last 1.5 million in the grants has been raised to build the last piece of the Reno Community Assistance Center, an 11.6 million family shelter and social services building. The struggle to build the Homeless Service Center has gone on for almost 24 years. Reno has provided 4.6 million, while Washoe County recently committed 1.5 million, and Sparks has agreed to donate 188,000 in federal grant money, with a number of others donating the rest. Reno will have a model facility to help our most vulnerable individuals and families turn their lives around. So that was from an article in 2007. This facility stands in stark contrast to the haphazard, emergency-funded, barely functional CARES campus, which was hastily slapped together mid-pandemic with almost no grassroots support or input, and a flood of reservations and concerns from experts, community members, and stakeholders. Here is a description of the CAC. Compare this to an enormous tent full of prison-style cots. So at 335 Record Street, it's a 50,000 plus square foot overall spot. It has on-site parking, and at one point, all of these spaces had complete furniture, fixtures, and equipment. On the first floor, there is a resource center with a reception area, a phone bank, mailboxes, because a physical address is critical for people to receive government checks and apply for work, 2 meeting rooms that can be used for trainings, education, and etc., and 5 individual offices that are HIPAA compliant, used for counseling, interviews, and signups for social services. Administrative offices, including a break room, a secure medication closet, group conference meeting rooms, a closed closet with display racks, shelving, and a back room with commercial laundry machines and sorting area, with secure entry to higher floors. On the second floor, there is a primary health clinic, including reception area, storage, lab space with equipment, 2 exam rooms, and 2 offices. There's also out-of-season secure storage for the closed closet on the first floor and administrative offices and meeting rooms. On the third floor, there are 21 Embassy Suite apartments with a common room, kitchen, bedroom, and restroom, and 2 of the units have 2 bedrooms for larger families. The point that I'm getting at here is that there are a lot of useful resources at this facility that are not being used. It sounds like a great facility. What happened to it? Thank you.
Thank you, Megan. And we'll turn to our next public commenter.
Ilya Arbitman, followed by Tara Tran, followed by Jake Maynard.
And I'll have some pictures for this thing too. Good morning, Ilya Arbitman for the record. Just a quick note, this comment and the following one will be speaking to items B15 and C1 respectively. We are entering these comments into general public comment because of our scheduling constraints. We would like for them to be included on the record for those 2 items specifically as well. By now, the manager's infamous memo regarding the CAC has been made public. We certainly hope next steps are taken and makes it onto an agenda soon. In the meantime, I'd like to address what the memo shows. Neglect, neglect, and more neglect. How could the manager and council allow these buildings that literally took decades to fund and construct and put to use to fall into such appalling disrepair? And I have some images here as well. If we can pull this thing up. This is just from the memo directly, and I'll just read while we show the thing here. So, city and management knew that the CAC was shuttered, not in use. What condition did they leave it in? Why does it look like the building was just abandoned one day, forgotten, and never stepped foot in again? If you know a community resource in the heart of downtown is not currently in use, there's still basic maintenance that absolutely has to be done. Anything less is fiscally and ethically irresponsible. Furthermore, water damage like this just does not happen overnight. The memo itself refers to years of neglect on the leaking roof, indicating that much of this damage, including potentially life-threatening mold, was already present while the building was still in use. Estimated repair costs stand at $2.75 million. Lucky for us, the city and its property are insured. So, on to item B15, a staff report on renewing the city's annual insurance policy on October 1st. Strange, but very few things are changing from last year's policy to this year's, save some quite notable and relevant exceptions. And here I have page 14 of that report. Put it up here. We can try to focus, but I'll read it. After Liberty Mutual, who is the carrier, performed a loss control visit at the city, they were informed that both 315 and 335 Record Street were vacant locations. As such, this year, they listed these locations as stated value and increased their deductibles to $150,000 from the previous $50,000. So on page 14, we have 2 city properties mentioned specifically, 335 and 315 Record Street. We know those addresses, that's the CAC. The deductible on property damage to these properties is set to triple this coming year from $50,000 to $150,000. Why? It's why I just read it, and here are the actual policies. There it is at 50, it's going up to 150. What conclusions can we draw? First, that the city has already been in conversation with their insurance carrier regarding the condition of the CAC. Second, that we have 3 days from today to file a claim for the damage to these properties before the deductible triples in the new policy. It would be neglect on top of neglect if these claims have not already been filed. If they have not, we demand that the city file them by the end of the day. If we are paying millions of dollars for an insurance policy and not filing property damage claims on insured properties, we have entered criminal neglect territory and potentially even insurance fraud. We certainly hope that neither of those are the case.
Fix the CAC, file the relevant insurance claims. Our policy covers tens of millions of dollars of water and equipment damage. 2.75 million seems quite feasible. Let's get these buildings repaired and ready for their future use as either transitional supportive housing, a women's and family shelter, or both. Thank you.
All right, Madam Mayor, do you want to take over? You want me to keep going? Okay, we'll finish public comment with myself, Madam Clerk.
Tara Tran, followed by Jake Maynard, followed by George Campione.
Hi, my name is Tara Tran for the record. I also will have a picture later on. All right. So as previously stated, this is relevant to agenda items C1. As we are aware from how the whole CARES campus saga has played out, the city of Reno has made it clear, as they should, that it intends to shift away from providing direct homeless services and focusing on providing transitional housing and affordable housing to the growing population of residents that are struggling to get by. Towards the end, the city will get help. Towards this end, the city will get help from local, state, and federal agencies. The city gets federal funding specifically intended for critical infrastructure and community needs such as homelessness prevention, affordable housing, rental assistance, etc. As part of this, the city must submit an annual report on how it's doing, which is agenda item C1, the Consolidated Annual Performance and Evaluation Report, or the CAPER. But if you put, this report is wrong, but if you read through it, the city's performance is dismal. So here I have an excerpt from that report. So here is a comparison of the city's goals as far regarding this report, the funding that it received and what it has done so far. So here we have tenant-based rental assistance housing. The goal was to assist 1,250 households. It has done 57, which is 4.5%. As far as homelessness prevention, it has assisted 99 out of the goal of 150 people. That's 66%. As overnight shelters, it has assisted 50% of its goal. And in homelessness prevention, it is assisted 3.5% of its goal. So that's 1,000 people that 10,000 people that it intended to assist, it did 344. So these goals are honestly a pretty low ball. The fact that we are reaching 3 to 4% on some of these is dismal. The city also owns the Community Assistance Center, which has this is a passage from said report. The city also owns a Community Assistance Center, which was previously the homeless shelter in the region. This Community Assistance Center is now being used for transitional and bridge housing programs. The city has, in this report that it is not yet filed, is telling the federal government that the CAC is being used for transitional and bridge housing programs at the same time that it is telling the public and their insurance company that they are unsafe and vacant buildings unfit for rehabilitation. We are here today to hold you accountable. By your own admission, you have been neglecting the federally funded community asset that the Reno desperately needs. So we are demanding that the CAC needs to be repaired and immediately be used as transitional and bridge housing as it is reporting in this CAPER report. Let's see. So, I'm out of town. Fix the CAC.
Okay. Ms. Tran, thank you for your comments. What document were you quoting for? I couldn't read the footnote.
This here,
The one you showed the chart.
the what?
The chart,
Oh, the chart? Yeah, so this is an excerpt from the CAPER report.
CAPER.
Yeah,
Okay.
CAPER, which is item C1.
Yeah,
Today's
I just
meeting.
wanted to make sure we got that.
And Madam Mayor, if I could, because we've been hearing a lot on the future of the CAC, and the memo that we received said it's more or less, a loss and thinking about getting an appraisal and selling it. And reports I've heard that people from the city and our contractors have been in discussions with the ballpark about selling it to them for overflow parking. I'm going to evoke section 3.1 of our rules, which says any council member can ask for an item on the agenda. I'm announcing that right now because you're supposed to tell your colleagues. I'll follow up with an email today, but I'm asking for an agenda item at our next meeting on the future of the CAC. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Breckus. Are there any more public speakers?
Jake Maynard, followed by George Campione, followed by Iris Gale Peppard.
Jake Maynard for the record. I have some stuff on the thing. So I'm here to talk about the same thing. So this is an article from 2007 about the proposed, at that point, CAC. So one of the quotes in the article, written at this point over 16 years ago, reads, "What if you were a homeless woman with children out in the snow in the middle of winter? We need to get this done." Unfortunately, still 16 years later, we ask the same exact question and have the same exact suggestion. We need to get this done. As I've stated to City Council before, at least 30 families are currently unhoused and unsheltered according to the county's numbers. When the snow and the cold come, I wonder what will happen to them. There's an option to avoid such an awful situation, and I and many others believe that the solution lies in reopening the CAC or selling it to someone like Rise, who has proven that they can run a family and women shelter very effectively and with dignity. I am asking to agendize that, and I appreciate that agendizement. And I want to expand and emphasize that there's an urgent need for this facility, specifically to aid unhoused and unsheltered women and families. It's extremely important, and CARES Campus and the other services do not effectively serve that demographic of people. Our place directly serves women and families, but they are consistently at capacity. And another quote from this article written in 2007 states that we just haven't had a place for families and children. And while our place has filled a need for that, we still don't have a place for all families and children. And that is something that needs to be solved very expeditiously and urgently. And I believe that the CAC can have, once again, a hand in filling that need. Thank you.
All right, thank you, sir.
George Campione, followed by Iris Gell Peppard, followed by Serene Townsell.
Hello, I'm here today because I was watching the news, believe it or not, and I saw our mayor and a person named Jonathan Boulware pumping out their chest saying how they putting 10 units of affordable housing on the market by 2024, just to put our chest back into our chest, okay? It's going to take 235 years to put back what Jacobs has taken off the market, all right? And that's by your own housing authority documentation, all right? She said this on the face of state, all right? Now, also, Miss Sheeby, I think, was saying how she was so upset at being baited and switched on RCC, all right? Here's a bait and switch for you. Come on, bring it up. There we go. There we go. Yeah, this was 2019. The date's on there, all right? This is what Jacobs was going to do with a $2.1 million investment that they originally made on the courtyard. They were going to invest another $2.9 million to make it a total of $5 million, and this is what we're supposed to be. Oh my God, look at this. And there was supposed to be 4 units of affordable housing, all right? What they don't tell you is this would have cost $5,000 a month for a 300 square foot room. All right? And if you want to check my numbers, I will take any of you, including your financial directors, and show them the numbers, all right? Because I only was paying $600 a month when Jacobs originally bought the courtyard for $2.1 million, and it was sold for Lauren had bought it for $900,000. Okay. This is what the courtyard looks like now. Is this not a bait and switch? Okay, this was not supposed to happen. All right, now they've got the other, get a little focus on there, please, thank you. Now they got the other, on this side here, the Desert Rose is going to be destroyed, so they're going to have dirt, more dirt. All right, they took a $12 million investment on the crest, all right, and they refurbished that. And they're charging like $1,000 or $1,200 for a 250 square foot room that doesn't even have an oven in it. And you want to bet? Let's go walk. I'll take you into them. Let's go walk. All right? This is my complaint. And I want to thank you so much. And this is what they have done. They've taken away liquor stores, gas stations, gold and silver, Midas shops, dry cleaners, and I can go on, the businesses, plus the housing. That's Jacobs for you.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Iris Skell Peppard, followed by Serene Townsell.
Sorry, okay. Hi, I am Iris Jaley Papard, the Executive Director of One Truckee River. I wanted to share two updates today. One Truckee River received technical support from the National Park Service that led us to a grant with River Network to support a process of engaging local community members in river stewardship and improvements. That group is now the Truckee River Community Advisory Team. They are currently conducting a survey to get input from residents and river users from Broadhead to John Champion's Park. I'm so happy to hear that the City of Reno recently allocated $3 million for the Truckee River. I look forward to this group sharing with the city the results to support the city's Truckee River planning process. Please reach out to me if you want a copy of the survey or learn more about the process. Another item I want to ensure that all city council members know about is that we were moving forward with the city for the third Portland Loo to be installed at City Plaza. And just recently, we were informed that City Plaza placement may be too soon for the Truckee River planning process soon to be underway. This is very concerning to me because if we don't secure the location by this December, we will not have enough time for design and install, and we'll need to return grant funds awarded. A quick background. In 2019, our partners secured funds from Washoe County AB9 SQ1 funds to purchase 3 loos, and at a joint regular meeting with the Reno City Council and Reno Redevelopment Agency, it was approved for the city to enter into an interlocal agreement for the first loo to be installed. In 2020, we installed the first loo at Broadhead Park and collected detailed data about it for a year that showed that the loo decreased feces in the area by 73%. We moved forward with the second install at John Champion Park that was completed this year. In 2021, we started discussions with the city about the third location and applied and were awarded funding for it. In 2022, with the former Park and Rec director, we conducted extensive public outreach on the topic, including 5 public presentations, mailers to downtown businesses, and an online survey with 154 respondents. In the survey, we asked participants to rank where they would like to see the next loo, and the most popular location was City Plaza. With all this information, in February 2022, City Council approved to support the City Plaza location. This restroom has been in storage for over 3 years. I don't want to lose the funding and the opportunity to provide a public capital improvement for the city along the Truckee River. I can understand that the timing is not ideal for the river planning process, yet I believe we have done our due diligence to identify City Plaza for the third loo location. Thank you.
And in your remaining time, Ms. Pipard, I have some very good news. I got a call from our Assistant City Manager, Eric Edelstein, and he told me, and I'm surprised you're actually here today, because he told me that he had gotten the city staff together and they have agreed to move forward with the City Plaza site. So what a wonderful news I have for you. And thank you for being here today. And if you haven't heard it from Eric, you should reach out and speak to him, and he can give you more details on that.
Okay, thank you so
Okay,
much.
thank you for all the work you do, and I'm going to ask Mr. Manager as well. The mayor and I have been a co-sponsor of this $3 million for the river, and we want to make sure that the Truckee River advisory team survey is made part of the project that they're about to begin, that they're in an RFQ on right now. And I actually had a meeting with Eric about that too, to make sure that whatever work is done is informed by all the work that already has been done. All right.
Great.
So
Understood.
if you can follow up, that'd be great.
And Mr. Manager, so that the entire council can be informed of what Mr. Edelstein told Ms. Dewar, do you think you could put into writing the steps you're taking to follow that council directive on that, Lou?
Sure thing.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, it was just a phone call a day ago. Actually, it was a text, so thank you.
Okay, great,
Okay.
thank you.
All right, bye. All right, are there any more public commenters, Madam Clerk?
Serene Townsell.
Have a lot to read. All right, hi, my name is Serene, and for the record, this is relevant to agenda items B15 and C1. First, thank you, Breakfast, for agendizing discussion about the Community Assistance Center. That's what I'll be talking about. I think it should be reopened as emergency shelter and assistance immediately. And also, I'm asking the city to prepare a winter preparedness plan. We've been asking by October 1st, and that's just around the corner, because winter is coming and it's going to be freezing cold outside. For public knowledge, the city receives federal funding for critical infrastructure and issues such as houselessness. Specifically, the CAC was funded this way. It was funded in part with community development block grants. So if the building were to be sold, the money must go towards the same critical needs of emergency housing, temporary housing, transitional affordable housing, all that stuff. I also want to touch on that consolidated annual performance and evaluation report. Because it states that the Record Street building is being used for transitional and bridge housing, and it's not. And we need to update that report so we're not lying to the federal government about what we're doing around the issue of houselessness. The city, as Ilya pointed out, is paying insurance on this building, which will triple in cost, but we're not using it. We were told the only things wrong with the building are a broken elevator and a leaky roof, and there are likely problems with neglect because, as Ilya and Megan said, the building was rapidly and mysteriously abandoned. So it sounds like all of those issues could be easily assessed and put out to bid. I also have a quote from some of the city council members, starting with Mayor Shivi said to News 4 that she is not in support of selling the CAC and thinks it would be beneficial to have a partnership with a developer to build housing themselves. I have something on the screen. Other city council members, such as Dewar and Breckes, said that they would like the city to keep the building and to use it for emergency services. I also CARES reported that 30 families are on the waiting list for housing. 30 families with kids, mothers and kids. And do you remember the voicemail last public comment that Lily played of a woman who had just been kicked out of CARES for advocating for someone else? She was crying for help. I just wanted to remind you because we didn't forget, and if you forgot, we'll be here to remind you. None of us have to act alone. There are proven successful models out there. There are people in the city who want to work on this issue. In fact, my friends and I have been compiling a comprehensive list of grassroots orgs, so there's no excuse for leaving these groups out of problem-solving conversations. Just ask us and we'll sit down and have the conversation. We'll direct you to people who are working on this issue already. And more importantly, our friends experiencing houselessness should be the center of these conversations. There's no excuse for leaving them out either. If you want to know where they are, how to get in contact with them, we're here. We can make those connections. Over 90 people died last year in the cold. Over 60 the year before. This is an emergency. Please act accordingly. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much. Madam Clerk?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just for the record, we did receive 6 comments which were general in nature or not directly associated with an agenda item prior to 4 p.m. yesterday, September 26th. These comments were voicemail and/or written correspondence received via our reno.gov online public comment form or by email to our office. Copies of these comments have been distributed to the Reno City Council and are available to the public on reno.gov. 2 comments in favor, 0 comments in opposition, and 4 letters of concern have been distributed. With that, we have no additional public comment. We're moving on to item A4, approval of the agenda.
All right, back to you, Madam Mayor.
All right, thank you so much. At this time, City Manager, do you have any updates? Anything on the agenda you'd like to notify us on?
I would like to ask you to continue item B21 on the consent agenda until your next meeting on October 11th. And I would like you to take item D1 out of order and do that after
I sure
you do
will.
the block vote on consent, please.
Okay, thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right, did everyone get that? Perfect. Okay, at this time, I'm going to ask for approval of the agenda. May I get a motion?
So moved.
I have a motion. Second. I have a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed?
Aye.
Motion carries. All right, thank you so much. Okay, we are going to head into consent agenda. I am going to ask each council member to pull the item that they would like to have presented.
And Madam Mayor, if you don't mind, I'd like to open redevelopment agency at the same time.
Oh, okay.
Just because
Sure.
the item on there corresponds with one of the consent agenda items.
Perfect, go right ahead. And then,
And disclosures.
okay.
Okay, so
All right,
if
go
we can
ahead.
go ahead and open redevelopment, it is 10:54. I will open with roll call. Councilmember Breckus. Dewar.
Here.
Martinez.
Here.
Ebert.
Here.
Taylor. Here. Reese, absent at this time. Shivi.
Here.
Madam Mayor, you do have a quorum of the Redevelopment Agency Board. Rolling into opening public comment, which I have none, so we will close item A3, public comment. I'm on item A4, approval of the agenda for the Redevelopment Agency Board for September 27th.
All right, thank you so much. At this time, may I get an approval?
Motion to approve the agenda.
Thank you so much. I have a motion, I have a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those
Aye.
opposed? Motion carries. Okay.
Thank you.
All right, we're going to head back to our agenda. Okay, so I'm going to ask council members to pull the items that they would like presentations on. And before we hear those presentations, we're going to skip over to item D1 before we do that. So I'm going to ask council members at this time, give me the items that they would like to pull. I will start to my left. Councilwoman Ebert.
B6, B7, B8, B10, and B15.
6, 7, 8, 10, and 15, correct?
Yes.
Okay, thank you so much. All right, Councilwoman Dewar.
Yeah, I don't have anything to pull, but I did want to make a comment on B9
Okay,
before we vote. Should I make it now or?
Councilwoman Taylor.
Madam Mayor, I'll have a disclosure on B13.
All right. Councilman Martinez.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Can we pull B21, please?
Sure. Wait, that's oh, it's being continued. Sorry.
Okay, I didn't know if we have to pull it to continue it and remove it from the block vote.
Okay, thank you so much. All right, Councilwoman Breckus.
I think Miss Ebert pulled B6, so I won't pull that one, but if
Yeah.
she didn't, I would like to.
She did.
B13, B15, B18, and B19. And 18 and 19 go with the redevelopment agency.
Okay, just repeat those again, please.
B6, B13, B15, B18, B19.
All right, thank you so much. Okay, at this time, all other items may please get an approval.
Well, we need to do the disclosure and we need to do my
And I also
comment.
need to take public comment.
I was wondering, do you want us to
I need
take the
public comment.
disclosure
Oh,
before?
that's fine. I just do need to do public comment before we take the vote.
I
Okay.
pulled the one she wants to do as disclosure on, so
Okay.
she can do it at that time. I
Okay.
think.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. We'll take the disclosure at that time. So I'm
Okay.
going to hand it back to you, Madam Clerk.
Well, and I'll do my comment. I didn't want to pull it, but I just wanted to make a public comment on B9. I just want to thank our RPD for continuing to look for these grants that will help us enforce. In this particular case, the grant is for enforcement of impaired driving, and that can be from drugs, that can be from drinking, that can be from a variety of things, but it's incredibly important that we do these enforcement sweeps and keep our roads safe. So thank you to our RPD, but I didn't want to keep them hanging here and wait, so that's all I had to say.
All right, thank you so much. Okay, at this time, Madam Clerk, what
All
I
right.
will do is send it to you, and then I will ask Ms. Taylor for a disclosure, and then we will head to item D1.
Louis Magriel.
Louis, hi. Come on up.
And I'm so sorry. Are we talking about B15 at the moment?
No. Well, yeah, I guess we can. You can
Yep,
talk
this is
about.
the consent
Yes,
agenda. You're
go
on
ahead.
B15.
Sorry.
Okay, awesome. Well, hello everyone. I am Louis McGreal for the record, and I'm hoping to speak on both B15 and C1, specifically in regards to the Community Assistance Center. So I am going to be talking on similar things as my other fellow friends have already talked about. Regarding B15 specifically, there I think needs to be consideration of the fact that if we're going to be renewing this insurance policy and tripling the premium or the deductible rather on property damage, we need to look at filing claims to get the Community Assistance Center fixed prior to that tripling. I see that as a waste of money. There's no reason that in my mind, we should not have already been filing these claims, and I would request that the council do so by the end of today, depending on how your schedules are looking, because this is imperative in my opinion. I am genuinely curious as a resident of the city how we have failed such a fundamental responsibility to maintain one of the few ways that people are going to be able to not die or otherwise suffer severe health problems during the very cold winters that we all know we have in this city. To me, this is a fundamental moral and ethical responsibility that as a civic and political body needs to be taken extremely seriously. I'm not inclined to generally believe in the malicious behavior of just about anyone, and I want to believe that everyone in this room has that moral compass that says we need to take care of the people who need the most help in our community. Given that, I don't understand how we have reached a point where we have years of neglect and property damage, again, on one of the most fundamental and essential public resources that we can provide to the most marginalized among us. I don't understand how we can see such pictures as, mold and water damage that have been there clearly for years before the building was even vacated, and how after it was vacated, no care was given to maintain the property, and leaving us now at the point where we can say it's not fit for rehabilitation. Well, we need beds, we need houses, we need a roof over people's heads, and this is a gigantic, beautiful building that we have that cost millions of dollars to build, and now we have essentially let it gather dust and mold. So in my mind, we have the property. We have the insurance that we need in order to fix the property. We have an urgent need with winter right around the corner to get moving ideally a year ago on these things, but now would be better than never. And it seems to me that the only thing we are missing in this regard is the political will and functionally claims to the insurance in order to get this started. Again, I don't know why we would spend $100,000 more on this if we did it next week as opposed to doing it today. It seems like everything is set up. So I would just also thank Councilwoman Breakfast for motioning to agendize further discussion of the Community Assistance Center. And I guess I would just want to end by saying that I think inaction is a very unfortunate and potentially vile form of injustice. Quiet inaction is a form of social violence when people are dying without the help that our city is able to provide. The resources are there. There's no reason that we can't move ahead and repair the building and get people housed. Thank you so much for your time.
All right, thank you. Nice job. All right, Madam Clerk.
All right,
anyone
Madam Mayor,
else?
additionally, for the record, we did receive one comment in favor of women's aviation that has been distributed to the Reno City Council and is a part of the permanent record. And with that, just if I can confirm before we take a vote, that we pulled items 6, 7, 8, 13, 15, 18, and 19.
Did you say 7, 8, 9?
Okay.
6, 7, 8.
10.
Okay.
13, 15, 18, 19.
Yep.
And then 21.
No, 21's pulled.
19.
You had 15 on there, of course?
I do.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. All right, so we're just looking for a motion to approve.
Motion to approve.
I have a motion, wait, hold on one second.
She's going to do it on the item when we open
You
it.
want, okay, all right, we'll come back to that. All right, may I get a motion to approve all other items on the consent agenda?
Motion to approve.
All right,
Second.
I have a motion, I have a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries. Thank you so much. Okay, we are going to head over to item D1, Madam Clerk. We have a very special guest in the house, the one and only General Andra Berry, to talk about the relationship that we have in the community with the Nevada National Guard. It's so nice to see you. We haven't seen you in a long time.
Well, you didn't invite me, but after sitting through, I know why I don't want to come all the time. But just first of all, thank you to the council and all that y'all do. I mean, I say it in all sincerity. Ms. City Manager, thank you for all that you do, and to the staff, because we can't do without the staff. And the work that happens in here impacts the quality of life for the citizens. And thank you for just being what I call dispensers of hope. So I just want to say that right off the bat in terms of what you do each and every day. Sometimes you don't get pats on the back, sometimes you don't get recognitions, but we do it because we love to serve. So I'll just thank you for that. And just going to take just a few minutes and talk about the National Guard and what we do and our purpose and how and communicate our responsibilities and our role and how maybe we can even have better synergy together as an organization. And this next slide, I have slides that I hope that you'll look over later, and they're not up yet. So am I supposed to put the slides up?
Mickey,
Or you guys?
they're coming.
Oh, they're coming. Okay. And I'll just keep going until they catch up. I'm on the second slide. It just talks about our mission, our mission, and I'll read it to you. And it says, actually, we were going to start with a video. We're going to start with video still? The key to air power is flexibility. So,
That's
you have
so
the video
true.
we'll show first, and then or I'll just go through the presentation. You ready to go? Ready to go. That's your Nevada National Guard right there. So just real quick, if you go to the next slide, and it talks about our mission, and we have community in our mission, we have state in our mission, and we have nation in our mission. Next slide. But the bigger things I talk about are safety, unity, integrity, and that's really who we are right there. And if you think about your National Guard, if we are not a part and integrated into the community, we cannot do our best work. Go to the next slide. And the Guard has 3 pillars to it, and most people don't know this. Our number one reason for existing is the war fight, the federal mission. If you look at most of our equipment, it's federal equipment. But the secondary to that is the homeland, and that's what we can do in our state when we are called and approved by the governor and the Department of Emergency Management. And the third is what we call our state partnerships. We have 3 state partnerships, which I hope at some time some of you will go visit with us. We recently were there from July 1st through the 12th, and we have members of the governor's staff with us. And our state partnerships are with Samoa, Tonga, and Fiji. And they are looking how they can more integrate into what we call a whole of government approach. And so those are the 3 reasons why your Guard exists. If you go to the next slide, it talks about or we have deployed over the last 3 years. So many people look at the National Guard and they think it's just a local organization. We have to have the very exact same capabilities as the active component. And if you look right there, we're everywhere. And we're always in a state of readiness in terms of when we're tapped on the shoulder. You go to the next slide because I was told to be done at a certain time, and I'm going to do that. So our number one priority, when we talk about our strategic priorities, our number one is readiness. If you are not ready, whether for the homeland, for the warfight, or for our state partnerships, and our day job is responsibility around readiness. Our second is our care of our airmen, soldiers, civilians, and their employers. We have National Guardsmen that work for the city of Reno, and we have to make sure we're taking care of you also and their families. Our third is our community. If we do not have the excellent relationships, if we can't recruit from our community, if we don't have the strong partnerships and the collaboration, we cannot do our best work. Next is diversity, equity, inclusion, and whoever you are, no matter where you come from, if you want to serve, if you want to take an oath, if you want to provide for your country, we, if you qualify, will take you in the National Guard. And our last is leadership development. We think we are the best in class of developing leaders. And hopefully in this presentation, I'll talk about a class that I'll open up to anybody that wants to come that we think is our signature course. And you go to the next slide, and it talks about our National Guard facilities. We are all over the state. Most people think it's just by the airport or we had an armory. And this just kind of gives you the lay of the land in terms of our ability to respond is based off where we're located. The majority of our personnel are down south, but we have a good contingent up here in the north. And you go to the next slide, you talk about the Office of the Military. Starts off with myself as the Adjutant General. I report to our Commander-in-Chief, which is Governor Lombardo. But if you look at how we're laid out, you have a land component commander who runs the Army National Guard, which the Army National Guard is 3/4 of our force. Then you have the an ATAG, or the Assistant Adjutant General, which is General Havener, who runs the Air Force, on the air side. Then the Director of the Joint Staff is probably most key for you, because our Joint Operations Centers is what will be utilized if the city of Reno would call us out. And if you look over to to my right on the slide up there, under the Department of Emergency Management, that's really who spends most of the time in the state in terms of capabilities, resources, support. And I'm going to lay out in just a few minutes kind of a notification process. Most people think they can just call me and being over the National Guard and get support and help. It doesn't quite work like that. So go to the next slide, and I call this National Guard 101. And this is where the slides are kind of important for you who are there. Remember this right here. We are neighbors, we are friends, we are supporters, we pay taxes on homes, our kids go to the schools. And if you look at it, 80% of my workforce, of almost 5,000 people, what we call part-time or drill status guardsmen, or MDay, which means they have other roles and responsibilities. And I always I'll highlight like Jenna Morales, who's your safety and maintenance operations person for the city of Reno. She's also a load master on our C-130, but she works for the city of Reno, and her MDay or DSG job is working on the C-130s. We have a Department of Emergency Management and state administrators. They're a civilian part of the workforce. Our primary duties are to fight wars, and if necessary, defend the homeland. And let me just talk about state partnerships just for a second. Here's how important state partnerships are. Think about Ukraine right now in their war. Their state partner is with the California National Guard. They have a stronger relationship with the California National Guard than they do with the Department of Defense, than they do with anybody in the military, because that's what state partnerships do. Right now, we have some of our personnel who are over in Fiji, and we also have, they're over there with College of Southern Nevada, and they're talking about educational opportunities that we can better work with them. We get a very intimate relationship with our state partners. The National Guard's domestic response and emergency disasters. But the litmus test that you always have to remember when you want to call out your National Guard is we provide a capability you don't have or you have exhausted. Always remember that right there. You say, can we use the Guard? A capability you don't have or you've exhausted. Then you go to the next slide. We are the last in and the first out, meaning if you had some civil unrest, you have local law enforcement for that. You also could bring neighboring law enforcement. And then you would possibly call the National Guard. We're not the first in. We want to support. And we are not very fast. I'll tell people that. And if anybody goes back to January 6th, you'll kind of remember that. We're not very fast. We're state funded for domestic operations, which is why we have to work through the governor and the Department of Emergency Management. We have a checklist for that. And then we always ask people to volunteer first unless it's something in the specialty area. And we won't pull from like police officers, firefighters, anything that's unique to the city of Reno in case we have some kind of emergency. We come to save lives and protect property. I'll tell anybody this. I don't know what happens around the rest of the country, but your Nevada National Guard is some of the best you will find in the entire world. I will guarantee that. Go to the next slide. This is how you request. If something happens, it starts off with your city manager, and the city manager would reach out to the Department of Emergency Management. That's where it starts right there. If you have questions, if you have, we need to know more. What are your capabilities? What can we utilize? That's where it starts right there. It doesn't start with me. And Dave Fogerson is outstanding in his job. Former firefighter, used to be a city of Reno firefighter. But that's where it starts on anything, any emergency in the city, it starts there. And then that's when we kind of come into the loop. And we will always have a leader, or we call an incident commander, or somebody to support our personnel if they're called out. I hit hard on that one right there. Next slide talks about our capabilities. And you can see we can do quite a bit. And we have some very good equipment. And I won't read you through the list, but what's not on there is our partnerships with the community. We offer training that we will work with you on. We have volunteers. We would love to be on committees. Like I said, we have the state partners that we would love to bring to the city and look at how we can have better synergy, how we can work on tourism, things like that. We have a workforce that wants to come over from Fiji and train in our local communities. So if you have a question about what are the Guard capabilities in addition to what's up here, feel free to reach out with us. We love to train with the local entities. The next slide up there is talking about our Battleborn Youth Challenge Academy. In Carlin, Nevada, we have our own high school. We take students from all over the state between age 16 and 18 who need just a little bit more structure, discipline. They wear uniforms. They're there for 5.5 months. They can do credit recovery, or they can graduate based off of the curriculum that they have. We have certified teachers and educators. We have a partnership with the Elko County School District. So if you know anybody that's 16 to 18 that just needs a little bit of tweaking, additional work, may not like the traditional school, a little bit more discipline, please let us know. We have 2 classes a year. We encourage also, if anybody wants to go out and visit, we do civic leader days where we'll take you out on the Black Hawk or the Chinook, and we'll fly you out there just to look at the location. If you let me know, I can get you out there. I know who to call, all right? And then we also have the Starbase Academy. And I think we've had some visitors from the city of Reno to come out to our Starbase Academy. This is a STEM program for 5th graders. We have a MOU with the local schools, and they bust them in, and they go through STEM 1 day a week for 5 weeks. Then we start other classes. This is probably one of the most popular things that we're doing. And we're going to expand and have a Starbase Academy because it has gotten so big, not just in our community here, not just down south, but around the nation. If you can do science, technology, engineering, and math, I believe you can do anything else. And you find that it is very popular. The kids love it. And the educators that come in, I really appreciate the fact that we create an environment because we have these STEM labs where they can learn STEM. I encourage anybody that wants to come out. It's right at the air base. We will let you come out and observe. Next one, we start with why. Why the National Guard? First of all, we must have trust. And I believe trust is we have confidence in your capabilities. We're community-based. This is where we get our membership from. To be known and attuned to what's important to you as a community. The more we know each other, the more we respect each other. To increase our diversity, whoever wants to join the National Guard. And we also have a program now, if you're not a citizen and you join the Guard, become a citizen, we also have it where your parents, who may come from another country, who meet the criteria, have a pathway to citizenship. It supports the governor's priorities. The governor has made a huge priority around education, and the Guard helps with that. Collaboration and partnerships, and remember, at the end of the day, we are core to what happens here. We are best in class at recruiting. We're top 5 in the nation. We're best in class at retention, which talks about our culture. We're best in class at mission effectiveness. We believe we do this better than anybody else across the country. And we take care of our people. And this is kind of our analogy about who we are. When we talk about your National Guard, these are key components and core to who we are. If I ever run for president one day, everybody's going to join the Guard for a year because It's about giving back. And we have some of the best benefits in the world. But if you look at what is important to us, continue learning, having a purpose for your life, perseverance, a reason for being, purpose, the profession of arms, nobility. I've always said this, there's 3 callings in life. One I believe is, I always say that those educators, it's a calling. Then I look at those who serve as a calling. And then those I say who are in the faith community. This is a calling in terms of what you do each and every day. And so this gives people a purpose and a reason for being. We talk about courage and tradition. You cannot have the longest running democracy in the history of the world without having a strong military, first responders, those who protect this homeland. So when you think about your Nevada National Guard, and the reason why we talk about this so much, because that's a big component of who we are. So we offer hope, we offer promise, and we offer confidence. And the National Guard, we like to say, is a true American treasure. So this is our kind of our rallying cry right here. We're battle-born, we're battle-tested, and we're battle-ready in terms of what we do. So having said that, that's kind of ended my presentation right there. Just a couple things, and I'll end it right here. First of all, we thank the city of Reno. We thank all that you do in terms of being a phenomenal partner. We've had great relationships, great collaboration, but just know at any time, if we can be an assistance and it meets the criteria, that we will be here for you. Second of all, I'm a huge community person, and I just don't want to have an organization that's not integrated into the community. So if you see those opportunities where we can do more and can work with you and support you and offer the right resources or allow you to come in and work and integrate with our people, please, please, please let us know. Last thing I'll say is this. We have a class that we created called Purple Resolve, and it's a resiliency class, and I like to say it's a leadership class, but it also is 100% for the members and their family. And one of the reasons why we created this, because we looked at the mental health issue that was going on in the nation today and in our organization. We looked at some of the resilience challenges. We looked at where we were missing the boat in terms of giving what we call the heart set, mindset, skill set, tool set to our membership to be able to navigate what's tough about life. I think one of the things that as a society sometimes we have missed is how hard this life can be. And coming out of especially the COVID response and where we didn't get some of the education the traditional ways, and then all the chaos and uncertainties in the world today, we wanted to be able to provide for our personnel an avenue, a class, a course, a safe environment for them to grow stronger. Everybody wins when leaders get better, and we want to make our leaders better. So we open that up to anybody in the city that wants to come. We offer it all the time. So we look forward to having a continued, elevated, more relationship with you. Anything, write it down, tweet it, I don't care, and send it. Anything that we can do, feel free to reach out to me. And last thing as I walk to my seat, I will say out loud, I think we got the best leaders in the world right here, and our community is better because of the job that you do. And I'm too old to lie now, so thank you for your service. All right.
Well,
Any questions, by the way?
General Barry, it's always such a pleasure to have you. I think you're one of the most dynamic people that I've ever met. I remember the first time I met you 10 years ago, I was like, you're amazing. I just can't wait to see what you're doing, and you have done so much good in this community. I'm so grateful, especially during the pandemic. We had conversations. You were ready to jump in on a moment's notice. I'm so proud of the work that you're doing with mental health. I think it's the #1 crisis in America. It's so critical, and you've recognized that.
Yes.
And so I can't thank you enough. Every time we've needed anything, you have been there.
Thank you.
It doesn't matter what it is. So I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart.
Appreciate all of you. Thank you.
Anyway, and wonderful presentation. There were several things in there I had no idea about. So this is why it's so important to have these presentations, so we actually know all the tools. So if any of us can access them, that we can.
Absolutely.
Have them. So
Thank you.
Go ahead.
Yeah.
Councilwoman Dewar.
Well, I just wanted to echo your comments. As you know how I feel about you, you're amazing. I've had many opportunities to interact with you, both in your role in Nevada National Guard, but also in your role in the community. But I wanted to say I did have the opportunity to go to one of your classes on a Saturday last year with my husband and with others, and it was a great class. I mean, you had a great attendance. It was inspirational, and I would recommend my colleagues to attend it. It was
Open it up to anybody
very
that
well.
wants to
But
come.
I also, at that time, recommended that you come here, and you have. And obviously you got the message from your folks. So thanks for being here.
Well, come back anytime. Thank
All
you.
right, Councilwoman Breckus, go ahead. Thank you, Madam Mayor. Major General, it's really nice to see you back in our city premises again. The question I have is your Washoe County Armory. Is that up at the Stead? Where
Yes.
is that? And I know a lot of the focus on Stead has been on the air races leaving, but my focus has really been on the big changes plan there through the agreement that Mr. Dermody and Ms. Fraza put together for the 8 million square feet or so of industrial. Are you in conversations? Is that going to change your operations up there, or?
Actually, no, and we just received another facility up there. We're going to grow in the state
Up there,
area. Yes,
okay.
we're going to grow in the state area, and we've received a facility, and we've also been offered another one. So you're going to see us grow up north, and we have the ability to add, easily 300-400 people but we have to have the infrastructure, and we are working on that.
Yeah, I think that's a topic that this council really needs to have front and center. We know the airport is independent, but we've got residents all over there, and I look forward to those conversations and hearing about your plans up there too. So,
Absolutely. And if you ever want to go one-on-one and talk about that, we can show you what the plans look like.
yeah, that'd be
because-
great. Okay, thank you.
Have that
very
down.
much.
Thank
Okay,
you.
bye.
And thank the city manager too. All right. Greatest mayor in the world. Thank you.
Oh, you're so kind. Thank you so much, General. We'll see you soon, and let us know how we can also help you. Okay, Madam Clerk, I believe we are heading into our consent agenda items. And what I would like to do is I kind of check the room and what items everyone is here for, so that, because I know you're here for a certain item. Have you taken any polling? No? Okay. So if you're here for a certain item, let me know, and then that way we can move it up on the agenda. Okay?
All right, so we're going to go
I
ahead.
think B15, right?
And C1 as well.
Okay. Okay, go ahead.
We're going to start with item B6, pulled by Councilmember Ebert.
Okay.
And Councilmember Breckus.
All right, thank you. Good morning, Lance. Nice
Good morning,
to see
Madam
you.
Mayor, council members. Happy to answer any questions about B6.
Ms. Ebert, do you want me to start? It's in Ward 1, or do you want to start? Yeah.
Lance, while we're waiting, do you want to state your name and title for the record?
Yes, ma'am. Lance Ferrato, Director of Business Licensing for the record.
Yeah, I had a question about, or it says on here, state analysis pursuant to Nevada Gaming Commission Regulation 3.010, the commission may deny an application based on the suitability of a location for multiple reasons relative to its application vicinity to schools, NGC Regulation 3.010, and premises having a substantial minor clientele. What was the justification for proving this so close to a high school?
So, Lance Ferrato for the record. Basically, I reviewed the GCB meeting as well as the NGC meeting, and the topic was broached. There was questions and concerns of just the proximity and what if there were any concerns. These two specific regulations give the board authority to weigh in on it. They discussed the matter and decided that there wasn't a cause for concern, and decided that it was okay to approve. There was also the topic that the 7-Eleven across the street has been there and has been licensed for almost 40 years now, and they haven't had any issues there. So there wasn't any concern with licensing this location.
Okay, so the 7-Eleven has been licensed. They have slot machines inside the 7-Eleven?
That's right. Yes.
Okay. So this is adding 4 slot machines to this location?
This location at Metro Market does not have any slots, so yes, it's installing 4
So
new
new slot
machines.
machines, and there's a 7-Eleven in what proximity to this location?
It's across the street to the east from Metro
Okay.
Market.
Were parents of the students at the high school notified that there would be an additional 4 slot machines in proximity to the high school.
Not to my knowledge. That wouldn't be normal protocol for the city or for the state. The administration was reached out to. The principal at Reno High School was spoken to by Gaming Control Board, and I also spoke to administration, and they had no concerns with this.
Okay, thank you.
All right, Councilman Breckus, go ahead. Thank you, Madam Mayor. So the Gaming Control Board and the Gaming Commission, though, did say that it is within our parameters to view it as, those site conditions as a reason for denial.
Absolutely. They brought it up, and
Yeah.
they said, do we want to add any conditions? Do we see any necessity to add a condition to, say, partition it off or to require specific enforcement standards or surveillance standards, and they chose not to.
But we're in dual licensing, and it's a fresh look over here, and we have the authority.
Absolutely.
To do that. Yeah. So I have a lot of familiarity with this property, obviously, because I represent this area, but more so this particular site, which was a bank, up to becoming what I call a convenience store, got a special use permit right before I came on the city council from the planning commission. I think you looked at that and said, because I asked you, were gaming devices looked at during that? You said, no, the only adult thing that was really examined was that pornography had to be roped off or limited to square footage.
Actually, I believe it's not allowed at all, adult materials or paraphernalia,
Okay, so
tobacco
no
paraphernalia.
pornography on the property or paraphernalia?
Correct.
Yeah, okay, drug paraphernalia,
Correct.
presumably. So, but they do have a liquor license because that's what came to the council. And I remember there was some heartburn at the council. Some of the older members didn't know the planning commission had issued that. Some of the newer members, like myself, had consternation about it too. I think, here's my view to my colleagues, in light of the fact that the one time this has gone before for analysis, the planning commission said they want to, keep out some of these adult uses, which are paraphernalia and pornography. And to me, the adult use of gaming, because you have to be how old to game in the state of Nevada?
21.
21, across from the high school, is reason to say no gaming devices. I think the answer that across the street, and I remember that came up before the Sullivan 11, it's been there for a long time, but, fresh times or call for fresh, new times call for fresh looks. Who knows? Who knows? I don't know if anyone does, but when the 7-Eleven was established, Reno High might not have been an open campus. I think back in the day, there were more, cafeteria services on campuses, and campuses were closed. That's just my general experience as a former student. And so I do see students every day when I'm in that vicinity, going through the parking lot, going in there, going to the shopping center. I think Booth is maybe a little bit more of a separation. And I think with the fact that we already have restrictions on them through the Planning Commission of no pornography nor paraphernalia in terms of licensing an adult activity, I'm willing to state that it's a use that I'm not comfortable with and not approve this license. And Madam Mayor, I'll just end my comments there and hear what my colleagues have to say.
Okay, thank you so much. Appreciate it. I'm going to send it now to you, Councilwoman Ebert.
I had another question, and I'm sorry, I need to pull up the address again. On the staff report, it says that slot machines to operate within an existing indoor soccer center.
Yeah, that's correct. That was an error on the staff report,
Yeah, I
and
know.
there was
It
a
said
supplemental. There was a supplemental staff report submitted on that.
Yeah, we got an email saying there was an update, but on our documents.
It should be attached to the back
To the back, okay.
or the front, somewhere in there.
Yeah. Yeah, because the printout I have doesn't have it, and then the attachments that we're looking at right now. Staff report, I don't see an updated staff report here that we have available. So just, I want to call that out. These are the documents that we have before us to review. It still shows that.
And if you look at the map, it's on there as well. You can see that it's a convenience store, not a soccer facility.
Yeah, but my point being that the documents that we have in front of us digitally still show them as this is an application for 4 slot machines to operate within an existing indoor soccer center. So
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, we should have the corrected documents for us during council meeting. I mean, this has been identified as an error. We did receive a memo or an email about it, and yet we're still being shown the incorrect information.
The supplemental documents are attached to the electronic document that's.
Where I don't
in
see it.
Prime
Can
Gov.
somebody please show me that? Oh, updated.
They're right
Okay.
there.
Okay. Got it. Okay. My apologies. Thank you.
All right, go ahead, Councilwoman Dewar.
Yeah, thank you. I remember when the gaming machines, I think there were 15, came in to be in CVS. I know that we were all here. We had quite a discussion about the location close to the high school. Can you say again how close this one is to the high school?
It's across the street.
Yeah.
I don't have the exact distancing, but it's literally across the street.
Yeah. And at that time, I know you weren't here, but we did have a very robust conversation about it. And I don't recall if we had adopted, it sounds like no, any distance requirements from school facilities, although it sounds like it's in our purview based on, could you just go over that part again? What
Well,
gives us the authority to consider the distance?
Well, I would say that the authority falls under in the NGC regs, but as far as the city goes in approving the license, it's a privileged license, and we'd have to discuss with legal, but I think you have the ability to condition that.
Yeah. And this particular mart, you said 4, right?
Yes.
We're going to be in. I was worried about them going in CVS at the time. At the time, what happened was they had been installed prior to council even considering it. They'd been given sort of a go-ahead to go ahead and install and wait for our approval. I guess assuming that, we would all just say, oh yeah, it's fine. But we did have a really robust conversation, and I'm not excited that it's right across the street. I have no problem with gaming. Obviously, I mean, we live in this city and the state, and it's a backbone of our economy. But I also, just like we've looked at how close marijuana should be, and it's a legal activity. We've looked at how close we just looked at liquor and how close it should be to a rehab center, right? And I think we established 500 feet recently in a new ordinance. Does that ring a bell to you?
Yeah, there are standards, distancing requirements for reviews, for supplemental reviews of conditional use permits and things like that. So yeah, there's an extra look, an extra review when it's within those distances.
So it's not illegal, but it was extra review.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. Well, anyway, I'm not really excited about being right across the street, so I'll just say that. I'll leave it there.
All right, any other questions? All right, I believe, Councilman Breckes, did you give me a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Okay.
All of my comments prior were for the record, so in that instance, they'll be verbatim into the minutes, and I motion to deny.
All right, I
those reasons.
have a motion.
A second.
I have a second from Councilwoman Ebert. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed?
Aye. Nay.
Motion carries. I don't know, was that Councilman Martinez? I couldn't tell.
That was a no from Martinez.
Okay.
Over to you.
All right, motion carries. Okay, moving on. I would like to, like I said, I would kind of like to, Madam Clerk, have you checked the temperature?
We're on item B7. And would you like me to go?
Yes.
I'll have one of my employees come down.
That would be
and
great. Thank you.
check the room. But we're on item B7.
Okay. And that would go back to Councilwoman Ebert.
This is B7.
Yeah, I'm looking at my notes. Okay, I had a question on just the wording on here. It says Regulation 4.080 imposes a 6-month time limitation within which commission action is effective. Does this mean that the gaming is only allowed for 6 months? I'm just asking for clarification on what that means.
Lance Ferrato, Director of Business Licensing for the record. No, so that's a waiver basically saying that 4080 gives them the ability to extend. So if they don't get this done, if they don't activate by a certain time, then they have to get a waiver, and that's what happened here. So they got approved, and then they came back, and CPUC Oh, I'm sorry. I'm reading the application above. If you look down, that's an application for a waiver on the top. You look at Sartini Gaming on the bottom, there are no conditions approved with that. Sorry, it kind of caught me off guard, but 4080 is basically an extension, and that doesn't apply to this. So the bottom half of that sheet that you see is the actual application that was approved. What you're looking at is a disposition page, and there's two items on that page. The bottom one is the one that applies.
Okay, give me a second here, hold on.
Maybe I could ask some questions. Ms. Siebert could ask questions, yeah. This sports dome, this is the indoor
Yes, ma'am.
soccer?
Yes, it's an indoor soccer facility, and they do all sorts of sports in there. So basically, there's fields for children, adults, there's soccer fields, volleyball courts, that kind of thing. And then there's also a common dining area with a bar, and that's where they intended for the machines.
So they do have a bar license?
Yes.
Do they have a special use permit of any sort?
Not to my knowledge, no.
Okay, that was my only question. All right, so the hours of operations for this location with the slot machines is only from 6 a.m. to 11 p.m. Am I reading that correctly?
Correct. Those are the facility hours that
Okay.
they're allowed to be operating, so gaming just
Okay.
rides on that.
All right, motion to approve.
All right, I have a motion.
Second.
I have a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries. Okay, Madam Clerk, back at you.
Thank you. Moving on to item B10.
What about B8?
Oh, B8.
Did Ms. Siebert pull that also?
She did.
She did. Councilwoman Ebert, go ahead.
Hi.
Hi.
So this might just be kind of clerical questions. I was looking through this document for the budget, and I noticed that on the invoice we received, there's 7 items listed, and I was able to identify them. The Salt Lake Wholesale Sports invoice that we got. These items match up with the Reno Police Department fiscal year ammunition order slip that we also received. All those items are accounted for, match what's on the invoice from SLWS, Salt Lake Wholesale Sports, but I noticed that the estimate is good for 30 days. The date on the estimate says 8/25/23. So I just want to make sure that these estimates are still going to be valid, given that it's over 30 days. Is this going to be okay still? I mean, do we have some kind of insurance that this is still accurate? Like they haven't raised the rates?
Yes, so
Okay.
Chief Nance for the record, but yes, we have this is all confirmed that they will extend this through.
Okay.
We put the project in before, so it's going to be fine.
Other questions I have are, we have this Salt Lake Wholesale Sports Nevada pricing 2023 federal, price sheet here. I was able to find 1, 2, 3, 4 of these items that are listed on their invoice to us. 7, but there's 7 items they list to us. So I wasn't able to verify the price on the remaining 3 items that are on their invoice to us and also on our order. I tried to verify by item number, by ammunition type, name, and also by contract price. I just wasn't able to find these at all on here. So I'm just curious as to how we came up with those prices, and where we got those prices, considering they're not listed anywhere on the supporting material we received.
So the invoice that we have is the amount that they're going to charge us for each of the items. So how they're listed on the 2 different sides, I'm not sure why they don't necessarily match up, but the items are going to be, I don't know if it's the way that they're packaged or a difference in numbers potentially, but the invoice side over here is the amount that they're going to ask us to pay as part of this agreement.
Okay, so my concern is just that, we have this sheet that we've been given to verify the pricing to match, and 3 of those items are not on the sheet that we have to verify the pricing. So I'm just curious, is there another sheet maybe that we
I don't have another sheet, no.
Okay.
So I'm going off the invoice that they gave us, and then this is the overall pricing document. So
Okay.
I'm sure that they're probably somehow contained in there. I read through it too. There's a lot of different
Yeah,
options
and
that
it
they
looks like
have.
things have been highlighted. I mean, my staff report is in black and white, but, I went through and verified by the item number. But, if we're using this documentation to vote on these things, and this is a material that's been given to us to verify the cost of things, it just gives me a little bit of pause to say, this is our documentation to verify this, and we can't verify it for these 3 items. So I just wanted to kind of call that out and put it on the record.
Right. I think the verification comes from the invoice that they gave us through, that's the items that we're ordering.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Any other questions? None? Councilwoman Ebert, can you give me a motion, please?
Sure, motion to approve.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries unanimously. All right. Okay, Madam Clerk, we are going to skip to item B13. And I think Councilwoman Taylor, is that the disclosure you have?
B13?
Yes.
Yeah, I do have, but Miss Taylor has a disclosure.
Yes.
Okay, go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Madam Mayor, fellow city council members, and Madam Clerk, in the interest of full transparency on item B13, I am disclosing that HDR Engineering is a current client of my consulting firm, Tailor-Made Solutions. On this matter, I have sought guidance from the city attorney's office. I have been advised that I have a substantial and continuing business relationship with HDR Engineering, and therefore a commitment in a private capacity to the interests of HDR Engineering. Here, item B13 seeks approval of a $223,204 consulting services agreement with HDR Engineering for engineering services related to the Reno Stead Water Reclamation Facility Secondary Clarifier Number 2 and Number 3 Rehabilitation Project. As such, I have been advised that the independent judgment of a reasonable person in my situation would be materially affected by my current contracts with HDR Engineering. Accordingly, I will not be participating or voting on this item today. Madam Clerk, please accept this disclosure and lodge it on the record for this meeting pertaining to these agenda items. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. All right, Councilwoman Breckus.
So, let's see, whose is this? Mr. Brothers. Hi. So your staff report says that the expansion of the Reno Stead Water Recreation Facility, RISWRF, is complete. With the newly constructed clarifiers in service, the older clarifiers can be inspected and rehabbed, right? So that's what you want to do?
Yes.
So tell me this, the expansion is complete. How much MGD are we running through there? Because I thought we couldn't use the full expansion until we figured out what to do with the effluent, and we haven't figured that out yet.
Nick Brothers, Utility Services, Associate Civil Engineer, and
Ms. McGroon's behind you, if you want.
Go ahead.
oh, thanks.
Yeah.
So, yeah, the flow is what it was yesterday, so 1.8 approximately million gallons a day. And yeah, this is just looking at the older facilities,
Okay.
1989 and 2004 built, and the opportunity to do maintenance, but doesn't increase anything beyond the expansion. Like, we're using the new facilities, but we're not increasing flow of what's coming in.
Okay, so we have essentially, we don't have increased capacity. It's hanging out there. We'll see how long it hangs out there for, but it gives you duplication.
Correct.
Okay. Any idea when you're going to be able to operate beyond? You know, we floated a bond for $55 million. We're paying on it. We're even paying penalty on it, I think. When are we going to get there to be able to use the other two? And is this how does this play into that too?
Good morning, Trina Magoon, Director of Utility Services. For the record, and you're referring to the American Flat APWF project. We recently brought a CMAR contractor on board. They've looked at the schedule, and it's now looking like early 2028 to have that project complete, which would allow for the effluent management solution for MGD expansion.
28, so it has slipped from when it was represented to the council.
About a year and a half.
By a year and a half. Okay, well, thank you.
Thank you.
Anything else I can do?
No, nothing else. Good luck with your clarifier rehab.
Thank you very much.
All right. Councilwoman? Do you want to? Yeah, I will make this motion.
Okay, thank you.
Second.
All right, so I guess that's the motion. I have a motion and a second. All those
Approval,
in favor say aye.
yeah, approve. I
Yeah.
will make the motion to approve the
for
consultant agreement.
All right, thank
Yeah.
you. I have a motion and a second.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those
Aye.
opposed, motion carries. Okay, moving right along, I believe we are going to head to item B15.
And Madam Mayor, I think we may have skipped item B10.
We did.
On purpose or?
Uh-huh.
Oh, okay. thanks.
I am going in the order in which we have guests in the audience.
Oh, I got you.
Yeah. I want to make sure that
Okay,
we can
that's fine.
address
I just
everyone
wanted to make
that's
sure
in
we
the
didn't
room.
miss
Okay,
it.
hi. Nice to see you.
Nice to see you. All right, I do have a presentation.
Okay.
All right, so good morning, still morning. Mayor Sheevy and council members, my name is Adria White and I'm the risk manager here at the city. I am here to talk to you guys about our annual insurance renewals. And I also have with me today William Deeb, who is the Public Entities Director at Aon. And Aon is our contracted insurance broker. And during the renewal process, Aon works very closely with our carriers to negotiate the best possible premium rates on behalf of the city. So the city has 5 policies that we are looking to renew currently, and they run on an annual basis from October 1st to September 30th every year. Just to bring some attention to the property coverage, we do have difference in conditions as well, or DIC, which is basically an endorsement on top of that property coverage that extends it, or expands it, I should say, to include things like flood and earthquake. This year, we are also asking to have a cyber liability policy included. Currently, the city is self-funded for cyber. However, with the growing risks that local governments are seeing due to cyber attacks, we are proposing to add this type of policy to our annual renewals. And we have worked closely with IT on this as well. So as you can see from the table on the screen in front of you guys, our premiums are increasing this year. And some of the reason for that increase can be attributed to a volatile market, catastrophic losses throughout the world and the nation, as you guys are all aware of. So last year, the premiums were a little over 2.7 million. This year, we do have a difference of about 420,000 or 15%. So Aon was able to negotiate that 15% increase for us. With the addition of that cyber policy, we are looking at that difference to increase a little bit more by about 17% or 570,000 roughly. And then that would bring the total of all of the premiums to a little over 3.3 million. So local governments today face a wide variety of risks in today's world. And one of the biggest risks that we are seeing is those cyber attacks, which can cost local governments millions of dollars in recovery. Some of the other things we do see are riots, weather-related events such as wildfires, which we're all very familiar with. Knock on wood, haven't had those yet. So if uninsured, the city would be left vulnerable to these risks and to paying these large-scale losses on its own. And on the screen, you see I have the recommended motion for you guys, and I am happy to take any questions that you might have.
Okay, thank you so much. I'm going to send it down to Councilman Breckus. Yeah, thank you for the presentation. And if you can't answer this question, I know our finance director is here because it may be more budgetary. But we budgeted, to my recollection, $5 million in risk. And this comes out of the risk fund. And at our last council meeting, we were told that there's adequate funding in the risk budget line item to pay that settlement of, how much was that set? Mr. Shipman, how much did your office recommend we paid Mr. Lucas?
For the record, John Shipman. So that settlement was for $3.5 million.
3.5?
Yep.
Okay, so 3.5. Have there been any other claims? I think I saw an employee claim, maybe two out of the risks this year already.
Yes, we have 2 claims that are currently being processed.
Okay, how
or
much did
reviewed.
those come up to?
I don't have that information in front of me.
I think I saw one for 100,000. So 3.6 and 3.4 is 7 million. So I recognize this is time sensitive, but I don't understand how we have the budget of 7 million before the first quarter closes out to pay all these risk claims. I'm something's got to give. I sat through 3 months of budgeting. What's giving, Ms.
That is a
Van Buren?
question for Director Van Buren.
Yeah, well, I premised that. I recognize that.
Hi, good morning. Vicki Van Buren, Director of Finance. Your question, to address that question, we do budget for the insurance premiums separately. So the insurance premiums are budgeted for currently, but the 15% increase we did not know at the time we built the budget. So you're not looking at that total amount coming out, being over budget on that.
Okay.
As far as the 3.5 million, we didn't know about that when we built the budget. The budget is built so that we anticipate having $5 million in reserves. So that's kind of our savings account, as you were talking about. And that's after everything else is paid. So not knowing about that $3.5 million that would come out of the $5 million that we have, kind of set aside.
So we have 3.5 to Mr. Lucas, and then this 420 gets us almost to 4 million.
Right.
There's been a couple minor ones I've seen, so 4 million. So the first quarter is not over, and we're blowing through.
Right.
What are your plans?
And we have 1.5 million budgeted typically for any things that come along, like you said, the 2 claims that were out there pending. We have 1.5 million. Some years we use it, some years we go over.
Is
So
that contingency?
depends.
Is that
No,
contingent?
that's budgeted.
Okay.
That's
Okay.
budgeted.
Okay.
And so that's
Well,
already
okay.
considered with that 5 million
Okay.
left.
Well, I appreciate that. I might have misread the staff report. I thought this came out of the 5 million, but this is separate. It's just the year over year. Okay,
Yes.
and then I would like, when we go around again, I will be asking about the Community Assistance Center claims, and maybe those are for the manager. Thank you. All right, any further questions? Go ahead.
Jenny asked some of the questions I had. Let me look at my notes here. And we had a lot of public comment actually that addressed some of the other questions I had. Can this policy that we already have, and this is, I don't know, maybe this isn't the right person to ask, maybe, but can we use a policy that we already have to make a claim for the Record Street facility? That we were told, I don't know, a month or so ago that the facility can no longer be used. Has any claim been submitted for that facility?
So our property policy is coverage for wear and tear. Not wear and tear over time. So similar to a car insurance where, if your tire goes flat or something, it wouldn't cover that. It would be specific to an event or even a series of events.
Mm-hmm. So was the building just recently red tagged? Maybe that's a question for Manager Thornley.
The building was red tagged about 2.5 weeks ago.
Okay, would that not be considered a triggering event?
Probably not.
What
given
would be
the-
considered a
given-
triggering event then?
A triggering event for property damage would be things like destruction by fire, things that a flood could be if we had appropriate coverage on the policy. But ordinary wear and tear, ordinary maintenance, casualty caused by sort of failure to adequately set up a CIP to maintain the building is not going to be covered by any insurance policy.
Okay. Do we have any reasoning as to why we were not maintaining this facility?
I would say at a base level, the rationale for why the facility has not been maintained over its lifetime is because the city taking over that space in the human services realm is not a space that we have a funding stream for. It is the responsibility of the county. And so that program and that space was always underfunded and was always sort of cobbled together during the budget to make sure that we could provide services at a very basic level while the county sorted out what they wanted to do. And I think we've come a long way in that partnership, and I think the county has made significant strides in performing that service for our community, and there's still work left to be done. But it is, I think it's an artifact of using funding streams that were not designed to support this type of service delivery, to do it in almost an emergency case.
Was there any considerations made when we had ARPA funds available to update this facility at all or maintain it better?
I don't know. Certainly, we've talked about using ARPA funds to support the unhoused community in finding transitional shelter, finding options for housing. But in terms of providing base shelter operations, no.
Was there a reason for that?
It is the county's responsibility statutorily and both from a fiscal perspective.
But didn't the city initially build the CARES campus?
I think out of desperation because the county was not providing
Okay, so it's
that
not
space.
unheard of. I mean, there is a standard for the city filling that role.
No, I don't think that there is. I think that the CARES campus is a partnership between us and the county and Sparks to get the county off and running in that service delivery space.
Well,
Whatever
the CARES
presidential
campus
value.
it was taken over by Washoe County because it was deemed unsafe. It's not like it was built under a
No, that's
partnership.
not correct. It was taken over by Washoe County because it was always intended to be taken over by Washoe County as
Okay,
part of
so
the
the city
transition
of
in
Reno
service
used
delivery.
our ARPA funds with the understanding that the county would take it over? CARES.
We did not use ARPA
The
funds.
CARES campus, I'm sorry.
If I could.
Go right
I'm just, if this item is, the scope of the item is the insurance.
Insurance.
And I
Okay.
think the discussion has been whether or not, we can file a claim on the CAC, and I think that's been asked and answered. I'm just concerned that we're getting a little beyond the scope of the issue.
Okay, brief question then. The change to the policy that specifically calls out exclusions for mold, is this being added for a specific reason? Namely, because of the Record Street facility, the issues that it has?
I'll actually defer that over to William, who helped with that negotiation.
Thank you.
Yes. So William Deeb, for the record, with Aon Risk Services. So mold is a standard exclusion on almost all policies. So in order to get mold coverage, you would have to buy a supplemental policy to cover mold specifically.
So is there a reason why it's being specifically called out as a new exclusion?
It's not a new exclusion. It's being pointed out as that the wording under the prior exclusion changed, and that's hence the new exclusion for mold. But mold was excluded last year and has been excluded in prior years.
Okay, just 1 second. Let me find my packet.
All right, Councilwoman, you're 2 minutes over, so I'll come back to you.
Okay, thank you.
All right, Councilwoman Breckus, go ahead.
Yeah, I just want to say I understand where the attorney weighed in, but I want to set the record straight on the origination of the CAC. To my understanding, as someone who worked as staff here from 1998 to 2009, I saw it differently. I saw it arise differently. I had some tangential relationship with that building, and I look forward to talking about that building. And I look at it very much like the Southside School that the city has under a long-term lease to the university. And we use buildings for other purposes over time that we own. But centering back on this insurance policy, the memo, I thought, said there was a vandalism incident at the CAC. There was also water damage. Usually water damage can be traced back to a pipe burst or something. Mr. Manager, did you explore any claims on this for this, be in advance of the premiums going up from 50,000 to 150,000? You wrote there was a vandalism incident. Do you have that documented as an incident?
I'm certain that we do have it documented as an incident. The cost of the premium really has very little to do with whether or not we should or should not file a claim against the policy. Vandalism events occur at that building on an extremely consistent basis. Whether or not in the aggregate they rise to the level of something that would be paid under the claim or would sit under the self-insured retention, effectively the deductible space, I can't tell you off the top of my head. I can tell you that all of the water damage is not necessarily because of a pipe burst or a cut pipe, which we do have over there. Instead, a lot of that mold, a lot of that water damage is because of a leaky roof, which falls under wear and tear.
Okay. I mean, here's the thing. It is relevant because we're going $420,000 year over year. 200,000 of that is for these two properties, to my understanding, and we've got a coverage lapsing in 3 days. And I did you file a claim for anything? Did you have discussions with them about claims?
No.
So, okay, we're going to talk about it, but that is concerning to me. Now, I want to talk about the 150,000 that we're going up, because the 150,000 is somehow based upon the fact that the property is vacant. That was my analysis, correct?
Correct.
Now, who has made that predetermined decision that it's a vacant property and will remain vacant for the next year? Because I want to respond to the fact that I'm hearing from the community that people from VOA have told people in the community that that property is going to become vacant and available for ballpark parking. And your memo said, I want to, sell it at land value. And then, by the way, you didn't put a claim on the building. So a lot is kind of piling up of concern.
I can categorically deny for you that we have had any sort of conversation with any sort of party about ballpark parking on that site.
What about any other? Have you had any conversations with anyone else that would be the reason why we're paying $100,000 more, $200,000 more to call these vacant?
No, the reason that the premium is going up for these insurance policies is that the building is vacant. The building is vacant because it costs on average $500,000 just to have open, and we do not provide programming or services in this space. And we have not had the county or some other government agency come to us and say, we would like to make use of this building. In fact, they have said to us, we do not want that building. We do not want to use it. We want to consolidate our service delivery at the CARES campus.
Okay.
All right, Councilman Buckets, I'm going to cut you off.
Yeah.
All right, any other questions from any other? Okay, I do have a question, so I'll come back to you after. I'm curious. Well, first of all, I think Councilwoman Ebert had some good questions. I think too that there should be some background and knowledge here of why the county, why it is their responsibility, first of all. So I think that would be good, because I think some of the public probably doesn't understand. And a lot of that has to do with the funding comes directly to them and doesn't come to the city. Am I correct?
In this space, statutorily, indigent services, under which this service delivery falls, is statutorily a responsibility of the county. And so of the myriad revenue streams that come in, they are designed in a way that the county retains the lion's share of, whether it's property tax, whether it's C-tax, so that they can provide these large, expensive, difficult, regionally based services.
Okay.
And so from a policy perspective, that's why those local revenue streams flow largely to the county. On the federal level, the county is in charge of the continuum of care. They are the provider of service in this space. And so all of those monies from CDBG and HUD and things like that flow to the county for this purpose. Okay. We also receive money in that space. And it gets deployed for things like rental assistance. It gets deployed for things like neighborhood cleanups and making sure that we can reinvest in housing stock that already exists in the county. And so part of the trouble that we have historically experienced is a scattershot approach by multiple agencies trying to occupy the same space, or sort of shirking that responsibility. And I'm thrilled that over the last 3 years, the county has really stepped up in that space and has started using those revenue streams to provide this service in a way that we have not been able to do historically, and on a scale that we have not been able to achieve
So are you
historically.
saying it's the county's responsibility to be in the shelter space?
Yes.
Okay. And how long was the city of Reno providing that because the county didn't? I mean, they really, and to your point, I'm glad to say that they are a partner now in these services. We didn't see that for a couple decades.
I think that's right.
Yeah, and so, Madam Mayor, again, I just want to point
All right,
out that
I
we're
just
getting a little
kinda
far
wanted to-
afield.
Okay,
Yeah,
thank you,
and
Jonathan.
yeah.
So this is why I asked this, and I think it was under Mayor Cashel because he was so concerned about it, and so he had a huge heart, and that's how we got the shelter.
That's
Am I
right.
right? Okay.
That's right. But to Mr. Shipman's point, the question in front of us today is, do we or do we not want to have
But
insurance
I'm going
in
here.
3 days?
But here's my point. So with the contract that we had with VOA, was there anything in that contract? What was their responsibility when it came to maintenance of the building? Was that our responsibility?
I believe that maintenance of the building was something that we retained in that agreement. And, because VOA, again, couldn't fund on its own maintaining a property of that scale. And so because it was cobbled together and because it was something that we were doing because of a dearth of services in that space, it was never something that was adequately funded or designed, and there was not programmatic revenue sufficient to support our endeavors in that space.
Okay, that's all I wanted to know, if they had some responsibility in that. Okay, all right. All right, go ahead, Councilwoman Ebert.
Yeah, so I found the specific spot in the attachment in item B15. It is, I don't really know what page to tell you. It says 10 on here, but there's a lot in here. It says specifically, the exclusion applies, consideration of the following adjustment of premium, $0. Insurance company agrees to the following changes with regard to all covered locations. Unless specified, covered locations are listed covered, scheduled below. Section 2 exclusions is amended by the addition of the following: mold matter in vacant buildings or units. So it says amended by the addition of the following. So that implies that it's a new amendment. So we discussed that mold is a standard thing, but it says specifically that this is amended by the addition of the following: mold matter in vacant buildings or units.
Yeah, so the exclusion is for vacant buildings and units. And the amendment is the addition of these two newly vacant units or newly identified as vacant units to that exclusion. So the exclusion's always been there for vacant buildings, but as buildings are identified as being vacant, they amend those properties to that exclusion since they are vacant.
Yeah, but it doesn't list any specific locations. This is general. It says mold matter in vacant buildings or units. So is this being put in specifically for this building?
No, it was on last year's policy as well.
It's also an existing condition, and so please correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't know that any sort of claim arising out of the existing condition on this building would be adjudicated under the new policy.
Okay, so I guess I'm just not understanding why it would say it's an addition of the following. It's not listed for any specific. It says mold matter in vacant buildings or units. And it says this exclusion will no longer apply for a particular unit or building once it becomes occupied by a tenant, if applicable. All construction activities within a particular unit or building have been completed. For purposes of this endorsement, construction is deemed complete when, if applicable, the insured has received a certificate of occupancy from the government entity or building department with authority over such matters, and applicable structure has been put to its intended use. So this specifically sounds like it's intended for a facility that is intended for use as, say, a shelter that it's specifically for mold and vacant buildings that are intended for a specific use. And unless this facility is fixed to be used for its intended use, it won't qualify for anything. So I'm having a hard time is reading this as anything other than a specific call out for this facility. And, the policy says it is amended by the addition of the following. So to say that it's not new or an amendment, it goes contrary to the specific language in this contract.
Yeah, so the policy wording is that the exclusion has been on there for this policy for many, many years. We provide the carrier with a statement of values, and within that statement of values, the properties are all identified, and that's how they base their coverages. So based on all of the properties that are scheduled on that. And within that schedule, the vacant buildings are identified as being vacant. Once those buildings are not vacant or become tenant occupied or occupied by whatever purpose of that building, could be administrative, could be offices, could be fire, whatever purpose, then that exclusion wouldn't apply to those buildings because they are now considered occupied and not vacant.
Okay, and we can't do that because it's red tagged, correct? Got it. So these exclusions make it so that we can't go in and make these facilities usable for their intended use.
No, that's not what the policy does. Right? So what the policy does is say, for so long as the building remains vacant, these exclusions apply.
Yeah.
Were we to go in and expend millions of dollars to repair the facility and then put it back into use, the exclusions would not apply because it would no longer be a vacant building.
And Mr. Manager?
My point being though, if it's red tagged, do we have the ability to go in and do that?
You sort of, in the world, you have the ability to spend money how you see fit, and it could be repaired. It's within the realm of things that are physically possible.
Okay.
All right, I'm going to
Thank
move
you.
on because we're
Yeah.
a minute over, a
All
minute
right.
20 over.
I'd like
Go
to make
ahead,
a motion.
Councilwoman Dewar.
Yeah, I'd like to make a motion, and before I do so, though, Mr. Manager, just to be clear, and to our insurance provider, it's my understanding, just a question, it's not my understanding. When a building is vacant and you change the policy, does that lower the premium or increase the premium? I thought because it's not occupied. Does it affect the monetary cost?
Yes, the cost of vacant buildings are more than the cost of occupied buildings.
Okay, it's
Yeah,
more.
The insurance cost is more.
Okay, that's what I
Correct.
wanted to know. All right, thank you. All right, I would like to make a motion to move to approve binding of the city's insurance policies.
I'll second, but I want to make a discussion.
All right, hold on.
Comments.
Go ahead.
Okay.
Hold on.
Including-
Let her finish.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Councilwoman Dewar, the floor is yours.
Okay, thanks.
Okay.
Including excess liability, excess workers' comp, property and coverage, including difference in conditions, pollution liability, auto physical damage, and cyber liability from October 1, 2023 to September 30, 2024, an amount not to exceed $3.4 million. Thank you.
Okay, all right, I have a motion from Councilwoman Dewar, I have a second by Councilwoman Breckus, and then we'll go into discussion. Councilwoman Breckus, go ahead.
Yeah, we're over a barrel. We've got to do this today. And in the future, I think these should not come so close to our expiration date. We need breathing room. But, $200,000 unbudgeted dollars are related to the CAC because it is vacant. The fact that it is vacant, it's costing us money, really should have been front-loaded by a discussion of what we're going to do with that building. And when I came on, my colleagues and I adopted a property policy. And we look at buildings for all municipal purposes. I know the mayor talked a lot about the county and that relationship, but we should have a discussion about what we're doing with that building. It's costing us a lot of money, and not have executive authority telling us how it's going to happen, and I'm going to do this. And so if it goes out on the chopping block, if it goes for demo, I'm going to have a big problem there without council direction, because we're losing an asset that I think is being mismanaged by not even filing a claim. You told us there was vandalism. You haven't talked to the broker about a claim. We could have made up some of this $200,000, potentially. I'm really stupefied on the management of the risk function as related to these liabilities and insurance policies. Thank you.
So, Madam Mayor, for clarity in the record, though, I do need to say, on March 24th of 2021, the council did tell us that they wanted services moved out of this building and over to the CARES campus. It was part of the broader conversation on the continuum of care with the county and how we were going to administer these services in the region. And so we did receive direction from the council to effectively close this building.
Okay.
Close the building,
right.
but we've got a building, that's an asset. We have property management policies. We need to have the discussion about how to use that
Councilwoman?
building. And I have been
Councilwoman?
contacted by a nonprofit that has asked us
Okay.
about it.
Councilwoman, but
Thank
we're
you.
going to have that discussion, okay?
Yes,
So
thank
you're
you.
going to get that opportunity. Okay, all right. So we had a motion, a second. We had a discussion. There was one thing I did want to add. I'm really glad to see that cybersecurity is in here because it is becoming incredibly problematic. I think it's something that we have to pay very close attention to as we move forward. We're seeing it, and I think especially in government, it is pretty well known that we are very far behind in the technology space. So whatever we can do when it comes to cybersecurity, I think that that's really important. So,
thank you.
So I did want to address that, so thank you. All right, motion is second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those
Aye.
opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. I think we are now, Madam Clerk, item
B18, maybe?
We can either go back to item B10 or we can move forward and open items B18,
Okay,
19,
let's
and
go with
open
B18.
B1 in redevelopment agency.
Okay, B18.
Madam Mayor and council members, Vicki Van Buren, Director of Finance. I'm glad to answer questions on this item. This is the investment policy. We have one minor change for this year. We look at this each year to make sure that it is in compliance with NRS and bring it back before council. We did present this to the Financial Advisory Board on September 14th, and they did make a motion to send it to council for approval.
We still call the CAC fund, correct? Community assistance.
We call it community assistance because we still have,
center.
it doesn't have the A on it. It's not community assistance center anymore. It's just community assistance because we have a lot of the veterans grants and such that run through there.
I think I've brought that up in past years. Let's, because we, just like that conversation, the CAC, and it's in the insurance policy, and this was bigger. So, but my question is on 5.1, delegation of authority. Responsibilities of the city council and the agency board. The city council and the agency board shall consider and adopt a written investment policy, which we're doing. The council and the agency board shall receive and review monthly investment reports. I have not been receiving those.
We do have monthly investment reports that are sent out, and they are available on the website as well.
I don't think I'm getting those.
I can certainly check on that for you, but we do receive them and post them.
We absolutely need to. I voted against the change that the council approved of receiving the monthly budgetary reports. And I'm going to just keep this year's theme to my colleagues is budget oversight. I want a dashboard every month of how we are when the C-tax comes in. I want to know every quarterly how the property tax is coming in. I want to know how the budgets are going. I'm not getting what I've got for the first 7-8 years I was on here. And this investment report is a big concern to me, that I have not been seeing those either. I think they used to be rolled up with the others. For example, there was just a penalty to the IRS for arbitrage, right?
Not that I'm aware of.
There wasn't a $24,000 penalty to the IRS?
Not for arbitrage. I'm not aware of that, no.
Okay. So everything, we're not paying any arbitrage. The investment, what's going on with the 55 million left over from the Risworth bond?
That project is underway, and we have drawn that full 55 million
You did
toward
draw
that
that.
project.
Okay, so
Yes.
there's no arbitrage on that. Okay. Okay.
We have not drawn all of, we received all of the money for the 60 million for the public safety center, the fire.
GO bond.
That one, we've received that money, and we're actually right now in an arbitrage look at it for that. But since we do have plans on that money and we are moving forward,
Okay.
we are actually
Okay.
currently
Okay.
in a
Okay.
look of.
Okay, yeah, but arbitrage is an investment policy function, right? I mean, you can avoid arbitrage how you manage your investment portfolio.
To some extent,
Yeah.
I mean.
Yeah, my colleagues I don't know if anyone else, it is entirely possible that I'm missing something, but I have not been seeing these investment, and I'm very concerned adopting a policy that gives us a statement that we do this annually, that we are reviewing these monthly investment reports. Maybe they're going to the FAB, maybe they're somewhere else, but they're just not hitting my desk. Because I
certainly
would have
check on
seen,
that for you.
Yeah, we need to see. I got to tell the council, there was a former council that got dinged upside and down on what was the old CAFRs. And when questions came about financial solvency during the Great Recession, they all said, never read it, never saw it.
Yeah.
We need to be seeing
But
those.
that wasn't us.
I know, but I'm telling you.
Okay.
The information needs to be received and it needs to be reviewed and it needs to be understood.
Are
Thank
you getting agenda briefs?
No, I'm not. I'm getting agenda briefs, but
Okay.
Madam Mayor, I'm
So-
not getting understanding of operations.
Okay.
And those are not
so
coming my
maybe
way.
also in agenda briefs, I assume you were in those agenda briefs.
Yes.
Just make sure that you also have those questions and she can
Yeah.
submit,
Well-
whatever that means. I just want to make sure. Okay.
The quarterly
Thank you,
meetings
Councilwoman.
with the finance department have been canceled per the manager, but I want the council to know you're adopting something that says you are receiving and reviewing monthly investment reports. So not only are you getting them in your email, you're reviewing them.
Yes, I know.
Okay.
I'm getting them, so thank you.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Moving along. Go ahead, Councilwoman Dewar.
I mean, I'm ready to make a motion
Okay.
if it was not pulled by me though, so.
I think
Did
it was
you-
pulled by Councilwoman Breckus.
I'll let Ms. Stewart make the motion.
Okay. go
Oh, all
ahead.
right. I would move to approve the amended investment policy for City of Reno and redevelopment agency of the City of Reno.
Okay, thank you so much. I have a motion from Councilwoman Dewar. Do I have a second? I have a second by Councilwoman Taylor. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Okay, thank you so much. Now we're gonna head over to item, I believe, C1? No? What are we doing, Madam Clerk?
B19.
We need a motion on B19.
Oh, okay. Oh, yeah, we're going back to the Bs, right? Okay. All right.
Again, Vicki Van Buren, Director of Finance. B19 is a resolution approving the major fund designations for fiscal year 22-23. So this is the current year that we are in the process of providing the financials for and going through the audit process right now. This is an annual item that comes forward to council, and these are the same major funds that were designated last year. General fund is always a major fund, and then the others are determined based on a dollar amount and a calculation that is done to determine which funds are major, and that determines how we actually put our financials together because the emphasis is given to major funds. So I'm glad to answer questions on it.
All right.
I can
Councilwoman
move
Breckus,
on
go
this.
ahead.
I can move on this.
Okay, go ahead.
I'll move to adopt this resolution.
All right,
Second.
Councilwoman Breckus gave me a motion. I have a second from Councilwoman Dewar. Any discussion? Seeing there
Should it
is
be
none.
23, 24? Or?
All those in favor, say aye.
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 All those opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
23, because it's last year. It's for the audit year.
Oh, we do it for the audit year?
Yes.
Okay, I thought we looked forward.
We designate it as we're preparing the financials, and they would be through 23.
Okay, gotcha,
Yes.
gotcha. Okay, thank you.
All right, Madam Mayor, if you'd like, we can open item B1 on the redevelopment agency board since these are associated with 18 and 19.
I thought we had.
had it open
I thought,
concurrently.
yeah.
We already,
But we have to take a separate motion on
Okay,
it.
can we do that then?
all right. Clarify, Madam Clerk, item?
B1 on the redevelopment agency board.
Okay.
I'm just looking for a motion.
All right.
So moved. This is relevant to B18,
Yes.
correct?
Okay,
Yeah.
so I have a motion from Councilwoman Dewar, Councilwoman Breckus.
I'll second, but I would like my comments on the prior one related to the investment reports monthly reviewed and received by the council to be incorporated into the minutes. They were applicable for this item also. Thank you.
All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
And I'll also make a motion on B2, if that's relevant to B19.
All right, thank you. I have a motion from Councilwoman Dewar.
Wait,
Madam Clerk,
Second.
You said it was B2?
I think it's B2.
you're fine?
Sure.
Okay, so I have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Okay,
Just for the record, my agenda does not have a B2 on it.
That's what I was trying to figure out what we were
Oh, I thought it was
talking
months.
about.
Didn't you
Yeah.
say we needed the companion motion for B19?
We already took the motions on the regular agenda, so I was
Okay.
just looking to
Oh.
close out
So-
this agenda.
Okay.
Oh.
Okay, so we can just continue closing out redevelopment agency. So is there any council comments for redevelopment agency board item C1?
On redevelopment.
No.
None? Okay, we're closing out item C1. We do not have any closing public comment for redevelopment agency board, so I'm just looking for a motion to adjourn.
I did sign up for public comment for C1.
For C1? Okay.
But not for this. not
Oh,
for
this is
redevelopment,
on a
for the
different
city council.
agenda. We'll go back to
Correct.
that agenda. I move to adjourn the board.
Thank you.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those
Aye.
opposed?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you. Moving back to item B10. B is in boy 10 on the regular Reno City Council meeting.
All right.
This was pulled by Councilmember Ebert.
Ebert, Councilwoman, go ahead.
Hi. So this is some stuff we've kind of talked about briefly, and I noticed that you canceled our October meeting, so I just wanted to have a quick chance to talk about some of these programs. This is a grant for public safety, for traffic safety, and a particular area of concern for me is crosswalk safety. I used my allocation of ARPA funds to install crosswalk flashing beacons in school zones in my ward, and I've discussed with you potentially, or my interest in maybe doing like kind of sting operations where we watch for people that are driving through crosswalks when we have children or other people actively in the crosswalk. So I just wanted to find out from you, what do these measures look like when we're talking about decreasing incidents with collisions with pedestrians and things like that? Do you have ideas about what these programs will look like? How will we be using these funds?
Yeah, Chief Nance, for the record, and I think we're rescheduling our October meeting. It just
Okay,
hasn't
good.
happened yet.
Okay, good.
But it will get rescheduled,
Because I know
promise.
this is something we've talked about a couple times, and I was like, oh, well, this is good. And then it gives us an opportunity to kind of talk about this.
So this actual specific traffic safety grant that you're referring to is pedestrian safety. So it can be in school zones or in other high-risk areas, and they utilize a variety of methods. So they can utilize decoy operations where they have somebody act as a pedestrian to see if there is violations occurring in or around or near them, and they can also utilize them to contact pedestrians who are violating crosswalk safety.
Okay.
So they can go either direction. It's really just dependent on, they look at the traffic collisions and incidents that have happened maybe the month before, make a determination on what the best use of resources is based on Reno Direct complaints, traffic complaints that we receive, and then accident and collision data. And then they'll decide what they're going to utilize the
Great.
next month.
Great. So you'll kind of tailor it as it goes along based off data. Great. That's perfect. That's what I wanted to know. So just kind of not a one size fits all. You'll be making it change with what we need. That's awesome. Thank you.
We can utilize multiple different tactics as needed.
Awesome. Thank you for that.
Yeah, I would have pulled this as well, but since it had already been pulled, I too have been very focused on pedestrian safety, starting with my very first project before I was even on council, which was putting in a pedestrian crossing. It's called a mid-block crossing. It's not at a major light, but people are crossing there all the time, and so we were able to do that. One of the things that just came up at the new school on off Rio Wrangler, which is the J. Wood Raw Elementary School, is it became apparent that kids are afraid to put their foot in the pedestrian crossing because cars are still going. The parents say don't cross while the cars are going. But apparently our law says that you can't cite people unless somebody has put their foot in the crossing and people haven't stopped. And I wondered about getting that law changed. I know this item is about the money for the sweep, for pedestrian safety, but it seemed like a good time to bring it up to council that this issue got a spotlight just a couple weeks ago with the opening of the new school. And I had no idea. I mean, I generally knew from driver's ed and all that, if someone had their foot in a crosswalk, you had to stop. But you don't necessarily have to stop when they're still standing on the sidewalk and haven't stepped off yet. So I just wanted to put a bookmarker there for us to maybe either include it in our legislative changes or to work on it with others statewide to maybe reconsider this, especially in school zones. So I don't know if other people were aware of this, but just you may have, I know you've been doing a deep dive as you've come into the city of Reno on all of our laws. And this apparently is one that's could use some improvement.
Yeah, that's pretty much the universal law that I'm aware of. So it's when the pedestrian enters the roadway is when they have the right of the roadway. Yeah. That's pretty much universal in how that works. So any changes to that, you would just have to evaluate.
Yeah, so it's been a standoff with the kids standing on the sidewalk waiting for the cars to stop and the cars not stopping because the kids haven't stepped into the crosswalk. So just something we should probably look at. Thank you.
Okay. Councilwoman Ebert, why don't you give me a motion?
Sure, motion to approve.
All right, thank you. I have a motion.
Second.
I have a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed. Motion carries unanimously. Okay, Madam Clerk, back at you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. We've closed out our B item, so we're moving into item C1.
Okay.
Which is a presentation from Jana Litz, and we do have public comment on this item.
Okay, sounds good. Why don't we have, do you want to do public comment first, or do you want to do it after her presentation? You don't care? Okay, let's have the presentation, and then we'll hear from you. Okay. All right, Monica.
Madam Mayor, can you open the public hearing?
Hi. Okay, at this time, we will now open the public hearing. Madam Clerk, was proper notice given? Any correspondence received?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Proper notice was given, and there was no correspondence received on this item.
Okay, thank you. All right, go ahead.
Good afternoon, Mayor Sheevy, council members, and City Manager Thornley. My name is Jana Litz for the record, and I'm here today to provide an update on our reporting called the CAPER, which is our Consolidated Annual Performance and Evaluation Report. This is due every year to HUD, and it kind of is our report card for the year. It should be noted that a draft of the CAPER was available for review and comment on our website, and this is a draft report that is a living document until it's submitted. Some language that was mentioned earlier in reference to the draft has since been updated to be past tense. So what is the CAPER? Every 5 years, HUD requires the submission of a consolidated plan. The consolidated plan is carried out through annual action plans, which address the priority needs and specific goals identified in that consolidated plan. The CAPER is an annual submission that reports activities, expenditures, and accomplishments from the annual action plan activities. So that's our report card for the year. In developing our consolidated plan, we put goals and activities in there for the next 5 years. However, sometimes those goals and activities change as our priorities and responsibilities shift. So you won't always see the achievements in those areas that we were anticipating when we originally developed the plan. The consolidated plan is our planning phase. The annual action plan is the implementation phase, and the CAPER is our reporting phase. This slide shows our 2022 HUD grant awards. We have 3 grants. We received about $2 million in CDBG, $1.5 million in home, and almost $180,000 in ESG for the 22 awards. Now let's look at our expenditures during program year 22. As you can see, we spent considerably more than we were awarded. That's because we had rollover funds from prior years, including CV funds from the pandemic that we were wrapping up spending on. Now I'm going to go over the different programs and activities that we undertook last fiscal year using our different grant funds. For CDBG, we spent about $4.8 million. We made some improvements for accessibility around the city, and we also did parks and public facilities improvements and supported the Village on Sage Street expansion by purchasing some additional modular units for that project. This council supported all of the projects that I'm about to show you. And for CDBG specifically, the projects that were underway last year benefited almost 7,000 households. So here's a look at Robin Hood Park. As you can see, that photo on the top left, the playground was really outdated. So we've put in a new innovative self-contained climber unit playground, and they also refurbished the basketball courts to include a futsal layout. That's really exciting. At Dick Taylor Park, the tennis courts really needed to be updated, so we went ahead and redid the tennis courts and also added pickleball. When I was out taking pictures of the projects, I met these two gentlemen playing pickleball, and they were really grateful for this improvement. So thanks to the council for approving that project. This is Dorothy McAlinden Park. It's located up in the North Valleys. The playground, again, was really outdated, and this council approved the installation of a new playground, which is our first fully accessible playground. So it's also got a custom airport theme to align with the area that it's located in with the Reno Stead Airport. And I mentioned accessibility improvements. Here's just one example of some ADA ramps that were put in at the California building. For the home grant, we spent about $1.6 million on 6 projects that were underway last fiscal year. The 6 projects are going to equate to about 650 units when they're all completed. 3 of the 6 are already done, and 1 will be done later this year, 2 next year. So those are going to be available soon. Here's a couple of examples. This is the Copper Mesa Apartments, which is in Red Rock. It's currently under construction, going to be done hopefully summer of '24. That's 290 new units, affordable at 60% of area median income. The Oravada Senior Apartments is off of Silverado. This one's going to be done at the end of this year, and it's 40 new units, 30 to 50% AMI. So those are just a couple of projects, but over the 6 projects, about 650 new units. Our Emergency Solutions Grant programs expended $929,000 last fiscal year. One of the programs that we run with ESG funding is the Rental and Deposit Assistance Program, which we've really expanded the last few years. So as you can see with the ESG funding, this report is on our federal funding only. So with that funding, we helped 94 households and spent about $187,000. What this report doesn't include is our entire Rental and Deposit Assistance Program, which includes other funding sources that spent about $4.1 million and helped an additional 1,300 households. We also spent the remainder of our ESG CV funding from the pandemic last fiscal year of $566,000. We had programs that were being run using that funding that have since sunsetted, but those include rapid rehousing, clean and safe, bridge housing, outreach, and a housing navigator in partnerships with Volunteers of America and Safe Embrace. All of the projects and programs that you've seen here align with the strategic plan areas of economic opportunity, homelessness, and affordable housing, and economic and community development. They also align with the Housing and Neighborhood Development Department's mission to create viable living environments for low to moderate income individuals and families. And our department is 11 full-time staff members working on these awesome projects. We are primarily grant funded. And that's what I have. This is the recommendation. Thank you.
All right. You made it. How are you feeling?
Good.
Good. All right. Well, good job. I enjoyed those slides very much. I thought that was very thorough. So good job. Because I know sometimes it's hard when people get up here. So I just want to let you know, it's always hard to give presentations, so congratulations. You did a good job.
Thank you.
Monica, can I just ask you to come up? I would love for you to address, I think there were some people in public comment that I'm not sure where they got some of those numbers. I think you should address that. I also think you should address how much in rental assistance that we put into the market. The other thing I want to clarify, has the county, maybe this is a city manager question, has the county put in any housing into the market?
The county has put some housing units to market, but with respect to the volume and scale of work in that space, we far outstrip what our partners at the county and in Sparks do. And I think Monica can provide some details.
And 83% of all the affordable housing is in the city of Reno. Am I correct?
That's correct. Is it 83 or 80?
It's very close to that.
Yeah,
It's 83, I'm pretty sure of it. 83%. So we've taken that on, we've built it. So I want people to know that have said, hey, you're not in the shelter space. That's because now we're trying to really focus and shift on the housing space and also on the rental assistance, the deposit assistance. I think we allocated, how much was it in the last?
Monica Cochran for the record.
6 million?
Last fiscal year, it was about 4.5 million.
Okay,
and
4.5 million went to rental assistance,
Correct.
keeping people in their housing so that they don't end up homeless.
Correct.
That's a really important function.
And then it was 1,400 households that were assisted either with rent or deposits for housing stability. That's correct.
Okay, that would be great, because there are a lot of public commenters here that I don't think had the background, and if we can get them that information, I think that's helpful. But it's also important to show why we're shifting, but also the county isn't providing housing. And if it is, I don't know of it, and it's very small.
It's a small component part, but like we were talking about earlier, the direction in this space was that the county was going to focus on sheltering and transitional housing, and we were going to move more into that workforce housing space and try to build out our housing stock there. And we focused in those spaces. I know we focused on that 30 to 60 space too, instead of just that 60 to 120 space that we think is sort of the sweet spot for where we ought to be. But mostly, we have taken the lead in subsidizing the development of restricted units that fit into either of those buckets. And that is really a role that we think that we should be playing in the region. It's a role that is making a difference in that space. But that is the hard work and something, again, I think we should be thankful to the present administration of the county for taking notice of, so that we can start to distribute these resources and use these revenue streams for the purposes in which they were intended.
I just want to put on the record that we did it for a couple decades when the county didn't, and we took it on. We were completely underfunded. That money didn't come to us from the state. Or I'm not so
we
sure.
pieced it together.
And that's the opportunity cost, right?
So
what
but
you're
I think
seeing
people should know that. They don't have any idea how we got here. What they think is the city of Reno is, so mean, they're not helping. And I think that that's important, because it's something that I think council members, I know I stress about it every day, that I think council members do. And we try to figure out, how are we going to manage everything? It's not just one particular issue. It's a lot, and a lot of them are connected to each other. So I just want to say thank you. So Monica, good job. Okay.
Thank you.
Councilman Breckus, you want to go?
Comment first, and then
I was just going to address one question about some of the public comment from earlier. As Ms. Litz said, when we create our consolidated plan, it's kind of a plan of how we expect to use our funds over a 5-year period.
and different measurements are put in place when our priorities shift and perhaps we're not providing a certain service for the whole 5 years that we plan to, our performance numbers will appear to be very low because we only did that thing for a short period of time, if that makes sense.
Okay.
And when you look at the consolidated report, it is it's a little hard to read because it reports for the whole 5 years. It lists everything that we put in there for a 5-year period, but it's only reporting for that particular year. So the numbers will appear skewed if it's read out of context.
Okay.
So I am available to help anybody understand that report if they would wish.
Okay, thank you so much.
Mhm.
Okay, Madam Clerk, go ahead.
Louis McGreal. Additionally, if you're in the Zoom and would like to make public comment, please raise your hand at this time.
Hello, Council. Thank you for having me speak again. Louis McGreal for the record. So I just wanted to follow up on that presentation regarding the CAPER report and specifically financing via the Community Development Block Grants. So it's my understanding that we submit this report in order to share our use of and progress with the federal funds that we've been given. And here are just some of the figures from that report, which, as you can see via the highlighted ones and the circle ones on top, there are, I think, inadequacies and deficiencies that are very significant and need to be addressed. If it is a matter of shifting priorities, then I would question why our priorities shifted away from some of these crucial services. But more importantly, I'd also like to explore page 12 of this report for the program year 2022, which does mention the Community Assistance Center for, it says that it is being used for transitional and bridge housing programs. My understanding is that that has not been the case for program year 2022 and that the building has been vacant for that time. So I am confused on why we are telling the federal government that we are supporting the CAC with their money when it seems in fact we are not doing so. I would then say that it would be incumbent on us to follow through with the promises that we've made and with the physical buildings that we own in order to keep them maintained and upheld. I am sure the people in this room are more familiar than I with what false reporting might entail, but it seems to me that if we're claiming we support this building and then we are not, that might be a serious issue. I would also say that, again, regarding the Community Assistance Center, that it does not seem beneficial to me to be playing a kind of shell game or blame game between the city versus county funding and responsibilities. While we say they need to do this and they say we need to do that, people die, mold grows, roofs spring ever more leaks, and the problem does not get addressed. So, whatever needs to be done, if we need triggering events to be identified for insurance money, perhaps we could look harder what's happened with sympathetic eyes. Maybe we could examine the timing of this red tag event that would exclude it from insurance payments. But regarding this item, I would simply ask the council to work hard to maintain its commitments to the federal government via the funding that they have given us with these grants to continue to provide critical shelter services and, again, not hide behind a blame game of pointing fingers. The people in this room have power. The people in this room have a moral and ethical responsibility. I think it is a mistake that we attempt to outsource that power and that responsibility to other people when the city owns this building. And again, this is an urgent need which has to be addressed. So thank you very much for your time.
Okay, thank you so much. First of all, Monica, I would love for you to come up and address that. And it's not a blame game, sir. Some of us are much more well equipped because that's what they were intended to do, right? So at the county, they have caseworkers and they have social workers and things. We don't have that. So it would be irresponsible of us, I think, for us to put our staff in that's not well equipped for things like social work, things like that. That's why we have to do it together collectively. But I wanted to explain why when people say, why isn't the city of Reno doing this? And our goal is to be collaborative with all jurisdictions, all the county, all the city. When we come together and do it, we do it better and more efficient. So that's the biggest reason why. So I want you to understand why we may or may not do something, because they might be doing it way better than we are. But then we come in and say, how can we help you on the back end of something we do better than you guys do? So it's more of a collaboration. It's not that we're trying to play a blame game at all. I just want you to understand that I think if we are doing it collaboratively, and listen, the problem is so massive, I don't think any one jurisdiction can do it by themselves. I think we all have to do it together and work together is going to be the best outcome.
And I would just say that, it is my understanding, at least the city of Reno has taken responsibility in the past. And of course, it is always in collaboration, it's inter-office funds and agreements that create these things. If we've taken that responsibility in the past, if it is a city-owned property, then that does mean that there is significant city responsibility.
All right, Monica, why don't you come on up and address some of those things? Unfortunately, I have got to step out.
Ms. Cochran, for the last time, that's fun. Would
that is fun, huh?
Would you also sort of clarify for all of us that the caper is a look back, and there were wind-up proceedings, and address that as well in your comments?
With regards to Monica Cochran, for the record, and I will probably say that for the last time. I'm getting married like in 2 weeks. That's why he said that.
I was going to say, where are you going?
Yeah.
Okay, so you'll have a different. What will your new last name be?
Kirch.
Okay. All right. Well, we'll get.
Which will be strange.
We'll
but
get used to it. I also think you should touch on the federal government reporting. It's very detailed, very strict. So I think you should address that too, because I just want to make sure that everyone has all the facts. I think we can make better decisions. And then also I would ask, Louis is right here, and if you could sit down with Louis and answer some of his questions so that he knows he can ask you anything, and also transparency. I think that's important.
100%.
Okay.
We are available. With regards to why the county, this is the county's responsibility and not the city's, I think City Manager Thornley answered that and probably can answer it better than I. With regards to this report and the CAC building in general, this report is for the last fiscal year, and the CAC did offer those services in the old family shelter for a short time of that program year, and that's why they're listed in this report. There was some language that didn't appear to be in past tense. This was a draft, as Ms. Litz said, and that wording has been revised to say this service was offered in that facility instead of is. So those have been corrected. It's a draft. It's still a live document. Okay. It's not submitted yet. All public comment is incorporated into that document, and then we report out for that fiscal year or program year again. And
so when do you submit this one?
Later this week.
Okay, so as of today, you will have gotten comment here. You've heard from the audience. And we'll make those changes and then submit.
Correct, and we've made some of them already. Some of the numbers that are in there that appear to show low performance, that's what I was explaining earlier. I can sit down with whomever wants to look at that and explain why it looks that way. It's a 5-year document and reports at different times.
Well, is the performance just for 1 year, or is it for the whole 5 years?
Well,
I mean, for the reporting part.
For this reporting, we're reporting for this year.
1 year.
However, if it's an activity that we're no longer doing, you'll still see where it was in there with a low.
Once upon a time.
Yes, because there's a this year column and over the life of the document.
Yeah. Just
column.
a thought. It might be good to add some asterisks or something just to explain this is 1 year, even though it's inferred. This is no longer carried on. Some explanatory material might be helpful.
We could probably do something like that in the narrative, but it is a format that is all driven by
they've set the
HUD.
format, but yeah.
Okay, yeah, we might be able to do that in the narrative portion.
Is there? And I know you had more to say.
That's all I was actually going to say.
Did you answer? I mean, did she answer your question, Mr. Thornley?
Yeah, I mean, I think the point that I am trying to draw out is that. As Director Cochran has advised, it's a living document that has a look back component and is not necessarily a present day reflection of how the money is being spent, but is more a summary over the life of that time. And I think it is important and she highlighted it well here, that the format of this reporting is governed by the requirements of the federal government, not.
Sure.
It's not something that we can change around stylistically at our preference.
I'm going to add another thought, and I don't want to add a lot of workload, but you may want to do some kind of executive summary for the use of the community and ourselves to better understand the achievements of the previous year, because I know how restrictive these federal reports can be, and they're not really painting the picture of what's happening. And often we end up with warring, conflicting information in the media, in what we're presenting, and then people think, well, someone's lying here. No, the information is just being presented in a particular way. So it's just a thought to maybe prepare something like a 5-page or
I know 2 meetings ago at CHAB, Ms. Cochran and her team presented a sizable slide deck describing the activities we've undertaken in this space over the last year.
So maybe that just needs to also be posted on our website along with this report.
Yep.
You know?
Thank you.
All right. All right. Does the council have any more questions on this topic?
Other
sorry,
public
Madam Chair,
commenter,
we
and then
have-
I would like some time.
Okay.
Thank you.
So,
Natalie Handler via
Yeah.
Zoom.
Thank you.
Natalie, please unmute, state your name for the record, and begin speaking.
Hi there, Natalie Handler for the record. Can you hear me?
We can, thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. I just want to shout out to all the advocates that have highlighted the concerns. And I just want to add something I've heard over the course of the meeting in regards to this. Doug, back on item B15, you stated that this the mold problem was an existing condition. So if in fact we did, I know we had the, I believe it was the Veterans Affairs Bridge Housing. So there was a group of about 30 veterans in that building in this last year. I think that's why it's stated on this draft that it was used for transitional and supportive housing. But if that was an existing mold condition, then were we housing people in a building with toxic mold and now saying that we can't house people in that same building? I'm just have some concerns there that we were not just neglecting this property as it's been stated, but also neglecting the health and wellness of people, some of our most vulnerable citizens. And I also would like to just say that I don't appreciate Mayor minimizing the comments from people that are advocates in our community that do direct outreach and support with our unhoused population and saying things like, we're calling this city mean. No one said that. And I think our arguments are much more intelligent and, meaningful than that. And I don't appreciate that. We're really just calling out the neglect that we see. And it's been really hard communicating with you guys. We were here last city council meeting before you all commenting. We didn't get much feedback there. Promises that the liaison would connect us with you guys. That never happened. I did a follow-up email to all of you. I barely received any replies back or even an acknowledgement from email. So for you to say that, we just don't understand and we're not getting the whole story. Well, yeah, that's because you're not communicating with us and we're doing our best here. And this is how we show up in public comment with 3 minutes. We don't have much other way to communicate with you. And that's a shame because we really do want to try and help solve these problems with you all. So yeah, just if you could talk about existing condition of mold and why we're housing people in those situations. It seems like a little slumlordy. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Handler. Let me just make a comment. I think transparency is always valuable. And so, Mr. Manager, maybe we could just do some research and identify the date the mold was found. And whatever the answer is, it may have been found while people were there, may not have been. It's fine. It would just be good to get the date.
For clarity, we can go back and try to reverse engineer the answer to your question.
No, just when we became aware.
My statement is, we know today that there is toxic mold in that building.
Yeah.
And so for purposes of the insurance conversation, it is presently an existing condition. I
Yeah.
have no idea whether it was an existing condition while the,
All I'm asking is when we became aware, not when it may have existed 5 years before we became aware, but just when we became aware.
we became aware 2.5 weeks ago.
Okay, well, that's.
Do you have a contract for remediation? I mean, when people get mold in their house, they get on it.
We don't. If you read the report that was distributed as part of that memo, the mold is pervasive throughout the building. The scale of the effort to remediate it will be on the order of at least $1 million worth of demo work before we start to build it back. And so, to your point, we do need to have a conversation about what we're going to do with this building and how we're going to fit it into a CIP or what the future of that site
What
holds.
council wants to do. And I thank Ms. Breckus for putting it on the agenda. Ms. Handler, just to remind you, we are going to have a conversation, public conversation about it. And we appreciate the advocacy of everyone. I mean, that's the whole point of public comment. And we are not a council acting in absence of that input. We're acting with presence. We may not respond in the instant to an email that you sent, or often we don't respond to individual comments. That's our practice. It's not that it's illegal, but it's generally our practice. So I am looking forward to the conversation that we will have about it. So your advocacy has generated that. So I think you should take some comfort in that is still to come.
Ms. Stewart?
Is there, yes, Ms. Breckus, yes.
Yeah, so I just want to confirm we're doing federal compliance right now in a public hearing. The comments of the people who came in and gave general comment this morning, they asked for those to be in the record. I'm asking for my comments to be in the record too. I think all comments will be in the record. I'm asking for mine to go in verbatim. Question number one is, you say there's been changes to the CAPER. I spent quite a bit of time reading the CAPER this year. Do you have a red line document of the wording changes, even no matter how slight, that you're suggesting get folded into the submitted document?
I do not have a red line version.
Okay.
When changes come up, I mean, as we're going through it and getting different data and noticing maybe some errors, something
Okay.
incorporated from the
Okay.
year before, something like that, they're changed and updated. We will review it again before it's submitted, and there's been a 30-day public comment, so all public comments that we've
Okay.
received in the last 30 days will be incorporated.
Yeah, okay. I mean, this is it. We're approving it. I think that's how the motion's written. So I really want a cleaned up document. I'm going to suggest some text language as related to the CAC, because I think we do need to memorialize that. But I have some other questions as well. Page 19, you said there were 3 rental households that were assisted with rehabilitation. That's kind of unusual to assist renters with rehabilitation. I just wanted to know the nature of those and make sure that we weren't shoring up improvements to deadbeat, abusive landlords.
I think what you're referring to is rehabilitation with home funds, and and those are renters because they're multifamily. So say, for instance, if we invest in a project, just say it has 100 units, it could be a LIHTC project, all other kind of funding sources. If it comes up for rehab and there are only, say, 3 home units in that building, our investment, in this report, we would only count the 3 home units.
Okay, I'm going to ask then, the program year, city and WCHC assisted 3 extremely low-income households with rental rehabilitation. I'm just going to call out and request the context of those to be incorporated and responded to in the document. The last one, and it's unfortunate the mayor's left the meeting for the day, is this concept of, and you brought it up, of, where does the city work? In housing or in these human services space? And I have a long history on that. I came to the council from working for the Nevada Housing Division on a contract and doing the housing. And when I came on, I really understood the way the federal dollars flow. And that's why I started very early saying, no, I will not vote for these interlocals with the county on the social human services. They're funding it the most. They need to be the lead agency. And over 3 or 4 years of that no vote, we finally did execute with them. But the question was always this transitional bridge housing. And you reflected that possibly when we pivot a little bit, sometimes our performance measures drop down. The pivot off of the 5-year as related to some of these programs needs to be a policy discussion here. It's just not adequate in my view to say, well, we entered into an interlocal that they're going to do this. Then we need to talk about our role in that space. And the space that I have always seen, because I see you get ESG and others, is that we do transitional and bridge or we contract with others. And that's the conversation that I want to have about that, because it was always this blurred area. And I see us in the transitional and bridge housing space. It's in our plan. We need to define it. We need to define it in terms of the resources we have. That includes the Community Assistance Center. So those are my comments on the CAC. I think they're relevant, or on the caper.
Yeah.
But they are relevant to this body needs to discuss the bridge transitional housing responsibilities that we have in light of this funding and our other resources. And I'm looking forward to that discussion very soon.
Okay, Ms. Breckus, I think you're a minute over. I want to acknowledge I agree.
Yeah, and I'm going to ask for more time.
I think a lot of people
I'm going to
agree.
ask for a little more time.
Well, let me just come back to you. Is there any more comments?
Would you like me to address that?
Why don't you?
Sure, sure.
Okay, so first, the bridge and transitional housing was a program that we operated with some of our CARES funding dollars. Those funding sources sunsetted, if you will, as did the program. It was always intended to be that way. As far as the plan goes in having the discussion, our action plan is brought to council each year. And in the last 2 years, we've put our ESG funds toward rental and deposit assistance for those vulnerable citizens. That's how we have identified to use those funds. So that was a decision by council. So we did have that discussion.
All right, Ms. Taylor, and then Mr. Martinez.
Thank you, Councilwoman Dewar. Thank you for this report. Thank you for all the work that you've done. And when I look at it, I'm gonna make a big statement, and then you can tell me if I'm right or if I'm wrong. And I was able to attend the CHAB meeting, and I saw the presentation that you gave. And in this space, not only, is the city of Reno a leader, we are the leader in rental assistance in the region, and we do 3 times as much as our partners. So based on, again, the presentation that I saw, is that accurate?
That is accurate, yes. And we are also the lead of the Washoe County Home Consortium, which is a mechanism that funds affordable housing developments. The county is in their lane over homeless services, transitional housing, and permanent supportive housing. We are supporting affordable and workforce housing.
And then we're also working with our partners in other places as far as allowing them to use our caps in other spaces with VOA and RHA to even bring more housing to the region.
That is correct.
Okay.
We have allocated volume cap.
Thank you.
To different projects, and then other projects that just needed council support. We brought those resolutions forward to provide those to the state housing division so that they could get those use that mechanism through the state's funding.
And I guess I would just add that there's always room to do better.
Of course.
But we are leading this effort, and we should be proud of that, and we should recognize that. So thank you to you and your team and everybody that works in this space, because I know it's not easy. And I, for one, definitely appreciate everything that you're doing. Thank you, Councilwoman.
Thanks, Ms. Taylor. And we're going to go to Mr. Martinez and then Ms. Ebert. And I just want to alert, after this item, we are going to take just a 3 to 5 minute break, facilities break, and then we're going to wrap up the meeting. Okay. So, Mr. Martinez.
Thank you, Councilmember Dewar. Ms. Cochran, I appreciate the information and the report that was provided. I also want to second or echo some of the comments made earlier today about the advocates there in the room and continuing the conversation in these important topics. And because of that, I'm also looking forward to the conversation that we'll be having about the CAC. Ms. Cochran, I think my questions come on page 15 of the Reno 2022 Caper Draft 9.10.1, there is a table that says minority owners of rental property, and I don't see any data filled into that table. And there's a table right below that on page 16 as well that looks like it's blank. So I'm just wondering if we can be provided with that information.
I do not have the report in front of me, but I will go back and look at those charts and see exactly what you're referring to, and I'll report back.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
And again, it is a draft report, so it's posted so that we can have these discussions and incorporate perhaps incorrect or missing information.
All right, great.
And we'll be able to get that before you submit them?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so to clarify, you're planning to send us a final report before you submit it to the federal government?
I can do that. I was referring to this
Just the
information.
table?
I was referring to the information that he was referencing.
Just the table that's
yes, but if
missing?
you would like the whole report, we can submit that. We bring the draft forward every year because it's still changing with
Just to
comments.
clarify, when is it due? You had said next week.
No,
but-
this week.
Friday?
I think Friday.
Okay, well, why don't you send council and let's have available the final report. We won't comment as a group, but we'll at least have it. And if someone sees an error, they can certainly let you know. Let me move, are you finished, Mr. Martinez?
Yes, thank you so
Okay,
much.
I'm gonna call on Councilmember Ebert.
I'd like to hold my questions until we see the final report. Is this something that we can bring back before council so we can review it with the actual final data?
Apparently not, based on the due date. And also I see our attorney saying no as well. So I think it's just if we get the final, if you see an error or a problem, you know, even though it's a 24, 48-hour turnaround, I think we need to let our staff know.
I mean, it's pretty much a final report. If there were a few errors in tenses or maybe some information did not upload correctly, those are things that we're working through to fix those. But the report was pretty much a final report, but still a draft because we have to incorporate all public comment into it during the 30-day public comment period.
So do you have comments today?
So
Ms.
the part
Ebert?
that says that we were using or are using the CAC facility, and we're not, that's
It's already been amended.
okay. Okay.
We were using it in that fiscal year that we're reporting for.
Okay. All right. Just give me 1 second here. All right, I think that's it for now then. Thank you.
Okay. Ms. Breckus.
Yeah, Ms. Lentz mentioned it that, the action plan doesn't really reflect, or the CAPER doesn't really reflect, all the efforts of the team, which has grown to 11. I did not know that. I missed that during budget, that we're up to 11. And, since there is all this other side activity, that was done, I do echo the comments of congratulating the team on all of that. But we do know that this federal money was not going to last forever. It was one shot, pandemic emergency response, seeing the Medicaid side and other aspects of our, investment in people from the federal government. So to me, that signals a ripeness to have a discussion as we normalize in our times of where we're at. I think I would have liked to see the CAPER a little more rich on some of that, and the discussion of, transitional bridge resources, even if it's just the CAC going to that purpose. So I will echo those comments again. What I would like to say is to that statement, I'm sorry, that page, I moved to the pages that Mr. Martinez referred, but where you say you changed the tense about the CAC. I would like to see that sentence revised to state it was operated for, the purpose between these months. It is currently vacant, and the city council has an intention in the third quarter of 2023 to make decisions about the future use of that property. I would like that in the in this CAPER report.
Could you say the last sentence again?
I would like a characterization of
I
the
heard the
months
first
that it was
part that it
used.
was
And the council has
currently.
an intention in the third quarter of 2023 to make decisions about the future use of that property.
Yeah, I mean, I don't
And
have
you
any-
want that statement in the actual report?
I do. I think if you can put it in past tense, I think we need to be honest with our monitors about what we're doing, because there are big CDBG implications with program income and other things, and there's a lot of suspicion out there in the community. Miraculously red tag, no insurance policy claims.
Okay,
All
thank
right,
you.
thank you. Was there anyone else? I know Councilmember Ebert, but let me check in with Mr. Martinez again. Any further comments?
Not at
No.
the moment. Thank you.
Ms. Taylor? No. Ms. Ebert?
Okay, I know you mentioned that this is like a specific format we need to use, and it says, on page 5 and 4, we have some stats and a table here of different groups that have been helped. I don't see anything that calls out, specifically women or families, and I know that that's been a specific subject that we've heard a lot of public comments on. Is that something that we can get specific data on? Because it says, persons assisted, homeless prevention, but can we get information on families specifically? Do we have homeless prevention for families? There's numbers out there that are being shared that there's 30 families that fall into that category. I don't see numbers on that specifically. Could we get those included? And what are we doing to help those populations specifically, since we no longer have that facility to house them in? And I understand that that's supposed to be handled by the county. I hear what people are saying, but is this something that we can get included in our numbers here?
Monica Cochran for the record again. With regards to what is reported in this document, it is a portal. We can't change the
Categories?
the data that we're putting in here. We can, with say, our rental assistance, we have a system there where we collect demographic information, and we can say, we helped X number of households that were like women with families. We can do that. As far as this particular report goes, it does not collect that sort of data.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Is there any final comments? I think we've all had a couple rounds. I want to just say, very good work. I know it's hard. And I know you're coming at the last minute, and maybe for consideration for next time is to start. I know you had a 30-day comment period, and you're trying to bring this to us at the end of that 30-day comment period, so we have the benefit of the comments. But as we've said to many other projects, maybe try just to come a little bit earlier, maybe one meeting earlier, so that if there are any changes or things, we do have time to incorporate those.
It was our intention to bring it the last
this
meeting.
reflects a tremendous amount of work. We've invested a lot with the CARES dollars. We have gone further with 25 million in ARPA dollars for housing, affordable housing. And so I think the city's really made a mark in terms of what space we're trying to occupy, and actually significant strides within that book of business that we are trying to occupy and not duplicate with other agencies. So thank you and your team for all the work you've put into this. And I am looking for a motion to accept the report.
I'd like to move to approve submission of the Program 2022 CAPER to Housing and Urban Development with the amendment that the page characterizing the use of the CAC is defined for the months, the purpose, and a statement that the City Council will, in the fourth quarter of 2023, have a discussion about the future use of that building.
Do they go on calendar year, fiscal year?
It's our program year is our fiscal year. It's the same, July 1 to June 30th.
So it's actually the second quarter?
Yes.
Okay, I just wanted to be clear that, okay. All right, is there a second?
Oh, I'll second.
All right, we have a motion by Ms. Breckus, second by Ms. Ebert. Is there any further discussion on the motion? Okay, seeing none, all in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. And we are going to take a 5-minute break, and we will be back at 1:25. Okay, we are back on the record. We are reconvening our meeting after our facilities break. We are on to item F1. Madam Clerk, is there any public comment?
Thank you, Madam Chair. We do not have any public comment registered on this item. Additionally, we did not receive any correspondence.
Okay. Let me ask, do we have to read any, since it's ordinance adoption, do we have to read?
Yes, I
something?
will
We're
be
going to
reading
send
Thank
it to
you.
the city
Would you
attorney.
please do that?
Yes. Ordinance number 6663, an ordinance to amend Title 18, Chapter 18.02 of the Reno Municipal Code entitled Zoning Rezoning A plus or minus .065 acre site generally located on the north side of Western Road, plus or minus 170 feet east of its intersection with Panther Drive from single-family residential 8 units per acre, SF8, to mixed employment, ME, together with matters which pertain to or are necessarily connected therewith.
Okay. Is there any questions about this ordinance? Does anybody have any discussion, comments, questions? If not, I'm looking for a motion, and I'll turn to our Ward 4 member, Councilmember Ebert.
Motion to approve?
All right, is there a second?
Motion to adopt.
Motion to adopt.
Okay. Is there a second?
Second.
All right, so we have a motion by Ms. Ebert, second by Ms. Taylor. Are there any comments on the motion? All right, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed, please say no. Motion carries unanimously. All right, thank you and congratulations. And we're moving on to H1, which is city council comments. Does any council member have a comment or a report? Mr. Martinez, anything?
Nothing. Thanks for checking.
Okay, anyone else? All right, hearing none, I'm going to close out item H1. We have no public hearings, and we're on to our final public comment, item J. Madam
Thank
Clerk?
you. We do not have any public comment registered. However, we did receive 3 comments after 4 p.m. yesterday, or that were general in nature. 3 letters of concerns. Those have been distributed to the Reno City Council, and we have no additional public comment for item J1.
All right. Hearing that, we will close out item J and move on to K, adjournment. Do I have a motion for adjournment?
Second.
All right, we have a motion from Ms. Taylor, second from Ms. Ebert. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? We are adjourned. Thank you.